Sorry, hold on one second.
Yep.
Sorry.
Good evening, all. Welcome commissioners, applicants, and interested parties to the September 5th, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. The meeting is now open. My name is Valerio Romano. I'm the chair of the commission and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 260 of the Cohasset bylaws governing wetlands protection, and Chapter 263 of the Cohasset bylaws governing stormwater management. The Conservation Commission meeting is now in session and being held on Zoom. If you have any questions for the commission, please put them in the Q&A section of Zoom. Include your name and address to be recognized. When called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. Present this evening on behalf of the commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and Charlotte Pechtel, our Conservation Agent. Which commissioners are here, Charlotte? Right now, I just see Tom, myself, and Chris Mack. Oh, no, I see all of us. Okay, sorry, there was something up with my Zoom. Okay, so I'd like to take a roll call of the Conservation Commissioners. Please respond by saying your name and present. Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Steve Magnell.
Steve Magnell, present.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
And Valerio Romano, I'm also present. I believe Sanjay's out tonight. Great. So we have a quorum tonight of 5 commissioners. Before proceeding to the public hearings, the following hearings are continued. In accordance with MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands and Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission has continued the public hearing on NOI 24-29 and Stormwater Permit 24-27 for the redevelopment of 82 Border Street to September 19th, 2024. This hearing will be via remote participation on Zoom. The public is invited to offer input by emailing cpechtel@cohassetma.org, and details for access to Zoom are available on the town's website. We also have another continued hearing, NOI 24-24 and Stormwater Permit 24-23 for the construction of a driveway at 31 Dolan Lane, also continued September 19th, 2024. This hearing will also be via remote participation on Zoom, and the public is invited to offer input by emailing cpechtel@cohassetma.org, and the details again are available on the town's website. Charlotte, that's all the continued hearings, correct?
Yes.
I believe so. Yes, sorry. I know last time I messed up and didn't read one, so I wanted to make sure we were good this time. Okay. On to our first public hearing. In accordance with MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission is and will be holding a public hearing tonight, starting that's noticed for 6:30 via remote participation on Zoom for NOI 24-28 to raise a portion of the existing single-family home and replace it with an addition, deck, and pervious patio at 20 Parker Avenue. The owners are Michael and Helene Skiri. The public was invited to offer input by emailing cpechtel@cohassetma, and details for Zoom access are also on the town's website. The hearing is now open. Charlotte, Michael, Helene, is there any member of your team that should be promoted? I see Xander.
Just me and Michael, I believe, are the only ones that should be promoted, which it looks like we are.
Exactly. Helen's here as well, Xander.
And Helen.
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just trying to share my screen. Here we go. Okay.
Great. So if you want to, if you want to summarize your project, let us know the key things that we should know, and we can continue.
Yes. So for the record, my name is Xander Oram from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, and I'm here representing the homeowners, Michael and Helene Skiri, for their proposed addition and restoration of 20 Parker Avenue. So currently the lot, it contains a single family home, partially within the 100-foot buffer zone. The lot is contains a fair amount of overgrowth that hasn't been maintained in some time. And a lot of this overgrowth contains invasive knotweed. and this rear portion of the lot here is in disrepair. So what the applicants are proposing to do is to raise that portion of the rear of the dwelling and construct a new addition with a deck leading down to a pervious patio. And this will increase the impervious area within the 100-foot buffer and within the site in general by 324 square feet. And we do not propose any work within the 50-foot buffer. Some tree removal and pruning is proposed, and this is mostly for construction access. This 30-inch maple and 12-inch dogwood will be professionally pruned to allow construction equipment to get to the back. And there's a kind of an entanglement of maple and spruce trees in this back corner here that'll be removed. And then for areas that contain the invasive knotweed, that is proposed to be removed with either construction equipment, excavators during the construction of the addition, or by hand, most likely a mix of both. Probably by hand closer to the edge of the 50-foot buffer to avoid any disturbance there. No herbicides will be used. It'll be purely excavator or by hand. And then in the rear here, we propose 1-to-1 mitigation consisting of plantings. And these plantings are sourced from the Cohasset Conservation Planting List. And that's 1-to-1 for the increase of impervious, so about 330 square feet of plantings in the back. In addition, there'll be we propose 4 native evergreen trees to be put along the north property line, and that's for screening. And that is basically it. I will note that the goal here is mostly to not maintain a lot of lawn area in the yard. They kind of want to go for more of a meadow type of aesthetic, I guess I'll say. And that's kind of similar to what they did in their previous lot. And that's pretty much it from me. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Michael, but if I missed anything, but I think that covers it.
That's exactly right. We have, I think it's interesting to note that the 100-foot, 50-foot and 100-foot for our property, our new property, are very substantially different than the 2 adjoining properties, which have been for years very beautifully landscaped. And so their 50 and 100 are much further towards the wetlands than ours are. In the case of the house number 22, owned by Jay Graham, his 100-foot buffer comes right about where his deck is, his back deck. So it's just because that's because the property's been overgrown for years and years and years, and particularly overgrown with this knotweed that Xander discussed.
Charlotte, do you have any, comments before I reach out, call on the commissioners?
Yeah, just in looking at the photos that Commissioner Bell just gave us today, and some of the photos that the applicant had submitted, I do see a few other invasive species, at least in the photos. I do see bittersweet. There's the English ivy that's growing up the trees, and then looks like a cluster near that 30-inch caliper maple. There's a cluster of trees of heaven, which are invasive. In terms of these, invasive species that are on the property, I'm sure you guys know they're very nasty and aggressive. If you're not using herbicides, you do have to mechanically dig down a couple feet to remove the extensive, rhizomes. So that's the other alternative. You can't just, cut them down to the ground. It actually makes it worse because they'll send up suckers. So at least by looking at the photos, there's definitely, some strong woody invasives and some invasive trees. So I have some recommended conditions for that if you guys are interested later tonight. But That was really my only thought. And then obviously, since there's no work in the 50, you don't need a variance here.
Okay, great. Commissioner Bell, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Cassandra, would you start by not displaying your whole screen here? I mean, you've got everything in your, we really can't see the plan. So you need to
ye-
maximize your PDF at the
Oh.
expense of all of the.
Sorry, it looks
bottom.
expanded to me, but let me
No, I mean,
try
we
again.
can barely see what you're talking about here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Little zoom in, if you could.
You can zoom in, but it's still
Um,
not going to be very effective. because
Yeah, let me
we see your
try.
whole- We see your
Is
whole.
this better?
We see your whole desktop, and that's not what we want to see.
Okay, yeah,
We want to see the plan.
that's odd. Let me,
I don't actually. I'm maybe getting a different view than you.
yeah, I thought I shared the application,
It's
or
getting
sorry,
better.
it's getting better.
Yeah,
Okay,
but still, I mean, it takes up about a third of my screen.
oh.
So nothing's legible.
Hmm. Do you want to, Xander, would you like to maybe just stop sharing and reshare? Maybe this is.
Yeah, let me try that.
Charlotte, do you have the plan?
Application windows.
Or you can let Charlotte drive.
Yeah, Charlotte,
Okay, let's give Xander one more chance.
Okay, I just reshared. Does that help? If not, Charlotte can drive.
Xander, can you try zooming in on the proposed side?
Yeah,
And if that doesn't work, I'm happy to share my screen.
yeah, Charlotte, why don't you share here? I mean, basically, what we're seeing is his entire desktop here.
Okay.
Huh.
This is a function of Adobe's new version of its PDF viewer, which is terrible.
is that, yeah, I've never had this issue before, so.
Charlotte, see if you can
Yep.
show us the plan here. so we
Yeah,
can-
no problem. I'm just turning off the comments so that you don't see those pop-ups.
Yeah. Oh, let me stop sharing too. Here you go.
That's all right. Thank you.
Oh, geez.
Am I going to get the same issue?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
yeah. I don't know
That's
what's.
what
Well,
it-
this is great.
Oh, wait, it just rendered in for me. Kinda.
It's rendered in for me
Better?
too.
It's still not
It's
great.
still, yeah, it's blurry,
It's-
but how's that? Better?
Well, it'll resolve itself, but the problem is that in the past, we've been able to fill the whole screen with the plan. Now we're looking at a very limited part, and no matter how much you zoom, it's still small. Keep
Huh.
zooming. And
Adobe with their
How
changes all
about
the time.
try one more thing, and I'm gonna, hold
yeah,
on.
the old,
Yeah, Tom, I get the issue you're talking about now. It's not filling up our Zoom screen on this side. Yeah.
yeah.
Let me try one more time. I'm gonna go onto my screen so that you guys can,
Yeah.
All right, how's this?
Same,
Any better?
no. We can see your whole desktop here.
No, it's just poor resolution. Yeah, I see the whole Adobe toolbars and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, they changed the reader and
Uh,
it's no longer a standalone reader. It's a web-based reader, so
What
it's
if when you share, you don't do screen two, you do the actual
that's true.
application?
You should be able to show the
Yeah,
application.
let me just try sharing the file. That's my last attempt. I'll share just the file and see if that makes any difference.
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Margin. Not a lot
Want
better.
to enlarge?
Yes, that's much better.
All right.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, that is much better.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Is there
good to
any-
know that maybe, Xander, we don't just share the full screen, you share the specific document, which
Mhm,
maybe, yeah, good to know with the PDF stuff.
good to know.
Anyway.
Noted.
Okay, so I starting the questions, you're exceeding then the footprint, the existing footprint in the 100-foot buffer, is that correct?
Yes, by So that's the only net there. It's a 324 square feet increase.
And I walked around the lot today, and yeah, it's definitely a jungle there in the back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just loaded with invasive plants that are going to be very hard to deal with over time. They're gonna try to creep back across that line almost no matter what you do.
Is it, I wonder if it's effective at all to plant trees where they would, create a canopy and, less light. We haven't discussed that much, but is there any plan to landscape the area where they're where they're trying to mitigate the invasive plant growth? Xander?
So we do have the mitigation area. Currently, it's mostly shrubs. We do have some small trees. There is, I will say there's that 30-inch, I think it's a maple, which does act as it gives a lot of shade. Obviously, you know, I mean, it hasn't worked. But it hasn't been maintained in a long time, the lot. So maybe if you cut it back and then kept maintaining it, it'd be a little easier because of that shade. But currently the only trees we're proposing are on the north property line. But I think we're happy to take suggestions if you think that would help.
What
Grow a
species
tree
of
or two.
maple is that 30-inch tree?
Sorry, what was that?
What species of maple is that 30-inch tree?
I'm not sure. Michael, do you have any idea?
No, I think it was referred to by the neighbor as a Norway maple.
Which is invasive itself.
Well,
Oh,
it's a very
geez.
large tree.
Yeah, they're still invasive.
Um,
They're a real problem all over town. They just sprout like weeds all over in the vicinity.
yeah,
But
Mm.
but that tree must have been there for many, many, many years because it's a huge tree.
yeah, you'll be surprised how fast they can grow in 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you proposing to put along the north property line? You've got some evenly spaced trees there, and what are you gonna put in there?
We were thinking of, and although this might not qualify, on the other side of the fence, my neighbor has a beautiful rhododendron, which is doing quite well. And although I don't know if that qualifies as an evergreen, I believe it keeps its leaves during the winter.
Yes.
Otherwise, we were thinking about the local typical type of evergreen which grows in the area. But not too tall. We don't want to go with too tall of a screen. But something which might, we had at our old house at 95 Atlantic Ave, I believe you've been there, when they were doing the drainage pipe for treats. We had a lot of junipers. But we want it to be more of a dwarf variety and not get too tall.
So you're just looking for a screen there.
Yes, the view, what we're trying to accomplish here is out of the back right-hand corner of the house. There's a wonderful view across Cohasset Harbor, and we want to preserve that view. But we want to give both our property and the property of our neighbor, Jay Graham, privacy from direct looking at the other's house. So that's why we propose to put these 4 trees equally spaced along the between the 2 houses. But we're trying to accomplish to maintain the nice view across the harbor out of the back right-hand side of the house. And then the back of the house, of course, looks across towards where they have the, what is it, the Government Island and the, Lightkeeper's house. And then the back left-hand corner looks down across, the Gulf River, which you can't see, at this season, but you see the neighbor's yard, which is an absolutely beautiful yard. So you want to leave that open to the view.
We'd like to match it kind of to.
And have a yard that's similar to the plantings, et cetera, that they have in their backyard.
So within the 100-foot buffer, you need to be selecting from our tree list.
Yes, we've already sent to Merrill a number of the different trees that we found on your list.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
they'll be
outside
from the
100-foot
list.
buffer, you're free to plant whatever you want, basically, but within the 100-foot buffer, you need to stay native.
Yes, and everything we want, for example, in your list, there's Joe Pye weed, which is for the flowers, et cetera, in the garden, which we like. There's mallow, which we would like to plant. So we found everything that we like that we used to have at our old property in 95 Atlantic Ave. We found everything that we like on your list.
Good. So is there is a stormwater permit associated with this or not? No, I guess not, because it's 300 feet, right? Is what we're talking about, change in impervious.
Yeah, correct.
It's
We're
really
just, we're
just an
below.
Order condition.
Tom, when you went by to the property today, and thank you for doing that, did you, along where we proposed those equally spaced evergreens, did you see the section of garden there that you saw that's where there used to years ago be a lawn, but it had been had a lot of plants growing up, et cetera.
Yeah, it's bare earth now. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, yes,
Right.
that was encroaching on the house.
Yeah.
And then out back, it was a complete jungle.
Yeah, I remember. I used the boat ramp there and a lot, so I'm fairly familiar with the street, and
Yeah.
it was a jungle for sure. What I didn't see were any none of the buffer zones were flagged. There's some stakes there, but no cleared delineation of the buffers. Is that
No, the stakes that you saw were stakes that I put up just so my wife and I could visualize what the new building would be, because we're leaving the building's approximately 50 feet long from the street to the back of the house. And we're keeping the front just exactly as it is, but redoing a lot of the damaged rotted wood, the front half of the house, and tearing down the back half of the house. And those stakes were markers that we put in so we could get a good feel for what it was going to be relative to what it is right now.
so those were the perimeter of the new house?
Those were the perimeter of the new house.
Okay,
Sorry, not the new house.
the addition.
The old, what we're taking down, what we're raising was an addition to the house, the front 25 feet. And that piece of addition is approximately 25 feet long by 12 feet wide, and we're widening it to be 19 feet wide and 4 feet longer than it is now. It's actually 24 by 12. So that's where you get the increase in the impervious that Xander was speaking of.
Charlotte, you want to show the pictures? Did any of the other commissioners been over to look at it? I don't know whether they have or not. If not, maybe just show the pictures.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. I wasn't able to get over there. Thanks for taking them.
I did go.
And, oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, we are at a little bit past the 15-minute mark, so just wanted to note that too.
Okay.
I'll go back to the first one. So this is where the, proposed 4 trees would go. This is on the right side of the house. So closer to the boat ramp, and then walking around to the left side. Little Norway maple grove in there. And trees of heaven are back here. I think that's the 30-inch Norway maple.
Exactly. So that section of the house will be left as is. And it's the back which gets replaced.
Commissioner Bell, do you have anything else right now?
No, not really. All my questions have been answered.
Commissioner Berrigan, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, please. I also went to look at that today. It's a beautiful property. It'll be even more beautiful when you have it done. Just
Thank
wanted
you.
to compliment you. You're welcome. I had a question about, I read that you're proposing an outdoor shower in the 100-foot buffer. It looks like might be 15 or 20 feet outside of the 50. And I'm wondering, where's that runoff going to? Is that just running down the hill, or is that going to be put in a drain? Or because you could be having a shower and have soap out there, and I'm just wondering if that's going to run into the wetland.
What would be
What do you guys-
appropriate?
I
Um,
don't know technically, but I'll let someone speak to that. I just know
Cassandra, what would you
Yeah,
as
so
the
the,
engineer think would be appropriate?
I mean, I'll note that the patio will be pervious. So hopefully you'd have some infiltration there. It should be a typical pervious patio where you have the gravel underneath. So hopefully most of that would be caught in the patio and then infiltrated that way. I'm happy to, if you think that some sort of mitigation is required for that, we can provide that as a condition. But I don't think it should be a huge issue, and yeah, I think the patio should catch most of it, in my opinion.
Okay. I'll take your expertise. Thank you.
Commissioner Magnell?
A question about that large section of hashed area there at the back. Is that existing? Are those existing trees and bushes that are going to be kept?
The red hatch, that's just kind of,
Or the dark, the kind of green hash, the gray green hash there, the
I
big.
think he means the mitigation plan, what you're calling mitigation
Oh,
plan, to make up for
yes,
the
that's
increased impervious. Yeah.
yeah, that's the mitigation planting area. So that's new native shrubs.
Okay, and the red outline that you've got in the upper and north corner there, is that additional mitigation planting then?
That's designating a cluster of trees that will be removed. Maples and spruces, and I think some invasives too, if that's what
Oh,
Charlotte
okay.
mentioned.
Charlotte
Yeah.
has a specific picture that she showed of that area. If she could put it back up, it shows specifically the trees in that area circled by red.
Yeah,
These are
it.
the trees in the area circled by red.
Ah,
They're
okay.
mainly maples.
I can see why you would want to remove them.
Yeah.
Behind in the 50-foot buffer, what is there now?
In the,
Overgrowth,
And will that'll be,
kind of the same thing, but we want to leave that alone, at least for now.
oh, okay.
and we don't own much of the area in the 50-foot buffer. Our lot line
Right.
is, there's a little stone wall behind these trees you're looking at.
Mhm.
And our lot line goes about 4 feet behind that. So, we can't really plan on doing anything within someone else's property.
But you will be attempting to kind of keep the invasives from coming back behind the new plantings.
Yes, and I'd be happy to ask permission from the property owner. It's a house on the corner as you lead into Parker Ave
Mhm.
to remove the knotweed. I'd love to remove the knotweed wherever it is, but I don't want to be doing anything on someone else's property.
I understand. Okay.
We should probably also have a further discussion if there's an intent to remove even invasives within the 50, so. And then Commissioner McIntyre, thoughts, comments, questions?
Just back to the removal and then replanting, I did a little poking around and there are some studies through Penn State where if you attempt to, if you remove the knotweed annually and replace it with, aggressive native plants, it can be effective at, shading out the knotweed before it grows and helping to mitigate that, so. When you're selecting your plants, your shrubs, you may check with Charlotte, and she may have some suggestions for. Dogwood, was one.
I wanted dogwood. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'd be very interested in that. I just heard that my understanding was that the best way to remove the knotweed is to dig down at least 3 feet. And
I read you can put tarps. You can in June, I looked at the thing from New Hampshire. And you can, you cut it in June and then you put dark tarps on it and you can smother it. But, but I would love, I'm very interested on what you were saying about, putting other species to combat it. Cause it's nasty.
Yes, it is. You see it all around town, becomes quite a monoculture. It's
Oh, we're renting a place.
at 125 Nichols Road, which
There's
is a sea of
it.
of
It's not
Japanese
just a
knotweed.
little bit, it's a sea of it.
yes. Yeah, we'll have Charlotte share that resource with you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the commissioners? I suppose I just had a question. It looks like that sort of that mitigation shrub area. Is this something we classically do, is just have plantings to mitigate increase in impervious surface? I'm fairly new to the commission. Is that typical? And it's already, that area where the increased plantings is already pervious, correct? So we're just, the plantings are some effort just to create more plantings within the 100-foot, but it's not necessarily something from our bylaw or from the Wetlands Protection Act where you do 1-for-1 increase of impervious to planting of shrubs. Is it? I guess that's a question for you, Xander.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's in your bylaw, but I think it's a pretty common practice that we've done. Not just in Cohasset, many other towns. I know Hingham, for example, actually has a whole regulation like in their bylaw about mitigation in like if it's like 1-to-1 for increase in impervious in the 100 and stuff like that. So I think it's a common thing, but I mean, we mostly proposed it here because the homeowners actually would really like to have native plantings in their yard.
I just didn't remember it from our bylaw, but I have no opposition, but
Yeah,
So,
Mr. Chair, it's not in our bylaw, but you know, as Xander said, it's a common strategy that, you know, if you're increasing impervious, it helps, you know, try to, you know, potentially offset an increased impervious for additional mitigation, you know, to help with, you know, just increasing the variety of native species, wildlife habitat, you know, drainage, you know, so, but there are some requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act, like with Riverfront, for example, you know, if you're doing certain things, you have to restore 1-to-1, 2-to-1 greater wetlands replication, 1-to-1. So, you know, there are certain ratios for replication and mitigation in the Wetlands Protection Act, but at least with our bylaw, we don't have anything like specific, like if you're increasing square footage, you have to, you know, offset that. But at least for us, that's a common thing that we see, and we usually like to see on plans. And in the 50, we sometimes want more than 1-to-1.
great. Okay, Charlotte, any objection from the commissioners if Charlotte?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
okay.
Mr. Chair, we do have a handful of comments. and
Yes,
can
that's
I
right.
read
Yeah,
those?
the public,
Yep.
of course, please. I know that I
Yep,
saw
yep.
some in email too. Yeah, my
Yeah.
apologies.
So they're from Miss Emery Julian of 14 Parker Ave. I'll start with the first one. I have concerns about the new deck that extends almost all the way to the setback and also further towards the marsh. That's the first comment. Oh, and then the second comment, sorry, following up, is also trying to understand the plantings along the deck and the marsh. So, yeah.
So for the deck, I mean, we are within the setback. So we're within the right to, you know, expand. And as for the, I mean, that's, you know, that's sort of a zoning question, that I'd be happy to follow up with later. But for the deck, being closer to the marsh, decks are largely considered pervious, so it's not, you know, it's not going to increase the impervious runoff going towards the marsh, so it really should have no effect.
Okay. And the planting plans along the new deck and the marsh. I don't know, Xander, if you just want to clarify that a tad more.
The
Like,
planting
some other plans.
plans,
Yeah,
so we have a suggested planting list on our plan, but it sounds like we may
yeah.
add
Mhm.
some different plantings as suggested by you.
Yeah.
Some more aggressive plantings to deal with the knotweed.
Mhm.
But as for, you know, the process, I think we have a detail on our plan that kind of shows, you know, what you do. And I'm sure it'll be in the conditions too, of the order of conditions, once this is approved.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the planting list, but it's being very
Oh
slow.
yeah. I
Oh,
don't know
here we
if
go.
it's gonna, I don't know if you'll even be able to read it, but
Yep, let me try. But yeah, I have some recommendations of how we can tweak this and potentially add to it a little bit. Yeah,
and
so you got some link areas.
I just saw another comment about the foundation.
Yep.
The
So
only
is
new
the new, oh,
foundation.
sorry, is the new
Yeah, go ahead.
foundation being built and new overall footprint? It's hard to tell.
So just the front of the house foundation will remain. It's just the back of the house that'll be removed and replaced. So like this darker area will be the new
Yeah,
area of
sorry, this is being
foundation.
very slow, but let me scroll back down. This is painful.
Yeah, I just forgot I wasn't sharing. I was totally
Nope,
pointing
nope,
at
nope,
it.
you're good. I'm following along. This is very painful, this new viewing. So the existing is this black line, thin black line within the thick black line, right? Oh, that's existing. I'm sorry. Let me go to proposed. Yep, here we
Yeah,
go. So we got
yeah.
you have the dark gray line within this thick black and hatched. So the thick black line is what's being, that's the new footprint.
That's the
And
new footprint, yeah.
yeah. And I'm sorry, is this completely getting taken off? And then obviously you're building the new footprint in its place
Yes, that's
on a
correct.
foundation?
Yep.
Okay. And then the next comment, this is in relation to our screen sharing troubles, but take a screenshot of the proposed and share that. Good suggestion. That was what I ended up doing, hard to see before footprint and new footprint. And then the other comment was that the 30-inch tree was a Norway maple and that it's invasive and its lead is damaged. And then the last comment is, could you ask about the Norway maple? We were hoping this could be removed.
Um,
Charlotte, we lost you. I don't know if you can hear us, but you seem to have frozen.
Well, regarding that Norway maple, I think, I mean, to speak for Michael, I think they would like to keep it mostly for shade. And it, you know, it's, I guess, I get it's invasive, but it is a large tree. So ideally they would want to keep it.
Well, in the summer, there's quite a bit of sun on the back of the house, and it really bakes, and that provides shade. We would like to prune it, and I can understand why our neighbors on that side of the house might wish to have it pruned, so that maybe it enhances their view, et cetera. So we'd be very happy to work with that. Removal is something which I think goes contrary to what Chris McGintyre was saying about, I believe he was talking about the shade as being a way of, or one of the commissioners was speaking about shade as being a way to keep the knotweed at bay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as much as they are invasive, they do provide some benefit to the resource area, and it's when it's in a lawn, you're typically you're cutting any I mean, of course some seed pods are going to get into the buffer zone, but you'll be cutting most of the seedlings, and
Yeah, but if you don't have a lawn and you are going to make sort of a quasi meadow, or a full-blown meadow, you're gonna have to mow at least once a year to keep those young maples from taking over. They're very aggressive. And you'll see a new crop of them every year. And if you don't get them while they're still the size of a pencil, you know, in diameter, they can really get out of hand.
Mm-hmm. But specifically for that large 30-inch maple, it clearly needs a lot of sophisticated tree work if it's to be kept. But we spent a bit of time at the property this summer, and the summer sun is really, without that shade, is really problematic for the back of the house. So we would propose, rather than eliminating that tree, we would propose to have it professionally pruned.
Yeah, at least from my perspective, preserving, even if it's an invasive Norway maple, preserving canopy is really important.
Yeah.
And particularly going forward, as if we are getting hotter summers, every time we lose canopy, we're making the problem worse. So
Presumably it's a habitat now as well for, you know, some small critters. So as long as, I think maybe you'll do your neighbors some favor if, like you said, you prune it and give it some good attention as to, you know, keeping it alive, making sure it's healthy. I guess there's some concern with the health of the tree. And hopefully that will satisfy their concern as well.
Yeah, we'd like to address all that. Absolutely.
Charlotte, did you
Sorry,
have some?
my internet
Yeah.
crashed. I apologize. I
That's
lost all
okay.
my stuff.
It looks like
I'll
there's some
just read the
further
last.
Q&As.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Please go ahead. Yeah, I've just, I know we are getting, you know,
Yep.
far more than 15 minutes, but it looks like there's some further Q&As.
Yeah,
And-
I'll just,
yeah.
I'll read them. They're from the same, from the Julians at 14 Parker. I have a sugar maple that's having a hard time as it's below the Norway maple. It takes which takes all the water. I understand the shade it provides, makes sense. And then, Chris Julian also said the extended addition towards the 50 mark could impact our view of the harbor in the winter. That's my primary concern. The Norway maple is adversely affecting our sugar maple, unfortunately. Can we ensure that, and then the last comment is, can we ensure that the Norway spruce will be safe? The tree in the front of the front by the driveway. So, sorry, that's probably just a couple comments about the addition. and the 50-foot buffer impacting a view during the winter, and then the Norway maple that seems to be affecting an abutters sugar maple and ensuring that the Norway spruce will be safe.
The Norway spruce is outside of our jurisdiction.
Oh, it's out of the 100?
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Front of the house at Parker Ave is out of our jurisdiction, yep.
Okay. But I don't think you have any plans to cut that down, Mike.
I don't know which tree you're referring to.
It's I can pull up the pictures again if my internet doesn't crash. It's a let me find the photo first and then I'll share my screen.
Norway spruce are struggling in town as well.
It's this big one right here. If you guys can see it, it might take a little sec to load.
We don't plan to touch that. My understanding was that that's on the Julian's property. We don't plan to touch that at all.
Yeah, potentially maybe on the
Yeah, I
borders.
think that is off property.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that that's the Julian's tree. And we'd like to preserve it. The holly, which I think a lot of our neighbors would like to the right, would like to see maintained. We're trying to see whether it could be replaced with a similar holly. And we've kept the shoots, but that is overgrown with vines. We'd love to salvage it if we can, but we just right now it's a pretty big mess.
And then I'm sorry, the last two comments were about the extended addition potentially impacting view of the harbor, and then the abutters sugar maple seems like it might be having a hard time under the Norway maple.
I would wonder if that could be offset by appropriate pruning of the maple that's providing the 30-inch maple that we're referring to.
Yeah, I think it is the 30-inch Norway that might be you know, it's you know, providing the biggest shade, so it's, you know, probably out competing the sugar maple that might be underneath it.
It's not really under the sugar maple, it's way down.
The sugar
in the
maple is
back.
down further
It's
down the
way
down.
back in their yard.
Well, I'm a little
No, I
Certain.
know, Michael, it's the one in the back.
I just don't know. But
Well, I think at least in terms of weighing in on the tree here, I mean, if you do decide to cut it down, that would just be an amended, you know, that would be, you know, an amendment to the plans. If your plan is to just, you know, prune it and see how that goes, see if that makes a difference. And in the, you know, if in the near future or the far future, if you did want to eventually remove it, that can be another discussion with the commission if you wanted to.
but we would have
play
to,
that.
I mean, based on where it's positioned, if we were to cut it down, we would come back to you
Yeah.
for a request and get
Mhm.
approval to cut it down. We can't just go
Yeah.
and chop that down.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is we'd like to try pruning it and work with Chris and Amory to figure out how we can have it improve the circumstances for their garden. But as of this summer, we felt that the shade it's providing is rather important to the property we bought.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly read some of the comments. Sorry, just, yes, that's right. Norway spruce is on our property. Sorry, we're asking. It's because at 10 Parker, they cut down one of our trees, so we're skittish. The sugar maple competes for ester, not light, but we're okay with you leaving the Norway maple or water, excuse me, sorry. And then they said, thank you, Mike, that sounds great. And then, sorry, the last comment was just about the potential view. I don't know who wants to answer that.
So I'm not sure it's you know, under the commission's authority to weigh in on, you know, the neighbors, a concern with neighbors' view. From looking at the site plan though, I mean, how many feet back does the new foundation extend? I know it's 300 some feet total extra, but it looks like just a few feet behind the existing foundation. Is that correct? That would impede the view, if at all. I'm very into having neighbors stay cordial during these things. So if there's anything we can do to give a sense of comfort to your neighbor, I think now would be the time to quickly address that, so it doesn't blow up in the future.
Yeah, it's only extending by a few feet. I want to say like 3 to 4 feet. I can get the exact number later on if you would like, but I don't think, we're not blocking the whole, we're not building all the way up to the 50-foot buffer marker is what I'm trying to say, I guess. So I don't believe it.
5 feet, Xander. I don't want to
Yeah.
scroll down and have it freak out again, but
Yeah, no.
using your scale, usually have a 1 inch and 20-foot scale. So this looks like about a 1/4 inch. It could be about 5 feet plus or minus.
Yeah.
It's less, it would be maximum 4 feet, I believe.
4 feet, okay. So 4
So
foot.
hopefully that's some comfort for your neighbor. I see there's another comment. Unfortunately, we do want to continue to move this along. Charlotte, do you want to see what this last comment is?
Yeah, so from the same, from the Amory's, just, Julian's, excuse me, it would be nice to know how much the increase is, thank you.
So
In the-
max
probably
4
in the-
feet, I think Mr. Skiri said.
Okay,
Yeah.
so about 4 feet, not counting the deck, that's just the foundation.
And you can, I mean, it's staked out, approximately where it would be.
Okay,
So I would welcome them to go over and have a new view at that. I think, Tom, you recognized those stakes when you went over to the property today?
Oh, yeah, they're unmistakable.
Yep.
I just didn't know what their purpose was, but yeah, they're prominent.
Yep. Yep. And it's just right off the back door of the existing cellar.
Great. Charlotte, did you have do you want to go through any proposed conditions you might have for this project?
yes. And I'm happy to modify them, given some of our conversations. Sorry, my computer was severely lagging, so I had to switch gears. So this is in addition to our regular conditions, just so that everyone's aware. So I kind of mimicked this from our last couple invasive restoration projects. So a lot of these you may see are familiar. The Conservation Commission, in addition to the agent, shall have the right to inspect the site under the order. No construction vehicles, equipment in the 50. And then in blue, I will come back to it, but I didn't know if you guys were okay with this language, that all native species in the buffer zone shall remain unless they are overgrown in the location of the proposed dwelling work. And then I had a marker here from our conversations of we're okay with the Nora maples being removed in that grove area. Then prior to any site work, the applicant shall walk the site with the agent to determine the invasive species to be removed within the 100 buffer zone. And based on our conversations, I don't know if you guys are okay with mechanical removal, but I just identified a couple of them, and then I can add Nora maples if you're okay with that. Otherwise, if we wanted to try the strategy of just cutting them down to the ground and then planting aggressive native woody species instead to kind of shade them out. But I just said that obviously herbicides are not allowed under this order. Tree protection barriers shall be installed around any native trees proposed to remain within limit of work and shall be installed per the instruction of the agent. The barriers shall be inspected by the agent prior to construction. These are a couple notes on just the material being removed, that the soil shall be removed once invasive species have been mechanically removed. That's if you approve of mechanical removal. And the soil shall be properly managed to kill invasive material prior to disposal, because you obviously don't just want to dump it. You want to leave it out in the sun to usually kill any roots and stuff. And then invasive material shall be immediately removed from the site, shall not be stored for any period. The invasive material shall be properly disposed of to prevent spread on or off site. Burning the plant or debris material is not permitted under this order. And then temporary stabilization or erosion sedimentation control shall be installed as necessary upon the direction of the agent once invasive species have been removed. You may just have to put down, something, depending on when the work is done, if we're going to get really wet season or something. The applicant shall work with the agent to verify, to plant a variety of native woody shrubs from the commission's approved planting list to help suppress future Japanese knotweed growth within the buffer zone. So that's the woody woody native planting strategy versus mechanical removal. And then required site inspections at pre-construction, post-invasive species removal work, and then prior to, final landscaping and then the final inspection. But I can go back to this blue language. I don't know if you guys want mechanical removal or if you just want to cut it down to the ground and keep it suppressed with planting stuff or tarping it. I don't know how you guys want to do that.
I think since we're within the 100-foot buffer here, I would think that mechanical is probably an important start for this, because you're never going to get all those rhizomes. But if you get a lot of them, then your next year the battle will be far more, maybe even minor if you're lucky. But without that mechanical removal, I think it's going to be a real struggle here. Not weeds, tough stuff.
I agree.
Works for me.
Would you guys?
So yeah, that seems okay then. You're current.
Okay, do you want me to add the Norway maples? Because part of the plan was to remove the Norway maple growth, but keep the 30-inch. Do you guys want me to specify that at all, or just go by the language in the plans?
Well, if they already have it in the plan, do we need to?
I can be thorough.
Yeah, sure.
I know that's kind of a run-on sentence, but does that kind of get our point across?
Yeah.
I might tighten up number 9 a little bit and say, the mitigation planting. Well, once you're ready, Charlotte, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 9.
Yeah, no, once you're ready, I didn't mean to jump
that's
ahead.
okay.
Yeah, number 9, I mean, just say, applicant or, shall provide a list of, shall, instead of just work with, they'll let you know what trees off, or I guess, it's number 8 now. I think we deleted one maybe.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So whatever the language is, but shall provide a list of, native shrubs from, to you specifically and what they plan on doing the mitigation planting.
Okay. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I feel like the overgrown species are mostly invasive, but I just wanted to specify that the goal is to keep anything native unless it's obviously like overgrown in the area where the addition and the deck are going. Does that sound okay? Because we obviously just want to see the invasive species removed, which is probably a majority of the material out there. But in case there's any native stuff, do we want to, is it okay to leave it? Except unless it's obviously like in the area of the proposed foundation or the deck.
Does that seem like a problem? Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Bell.
It may be really hard to get in there with mechanized material to mechanized removal of knotweed and somehow
keep okay. That makes sense.
You're gonna wipe the slate clean here and plant off the list.
Okay. I mean, I have a tree protection barrier comment. So like, I'm mostly concerned about trees. I understand we obviously can't probably preserve any native ground cover if we're going to be digging out knotweed. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? This is what I had. I don't know if anybody has any other suggested conditions.
It's so, yep. I don't.
Okay.
Well, let me see. So number 7, I think what I was talking about was that 300 plus square feet of shrubs that they have on the plan. Have they specified what's going to be in that?
They have it on the plans.
But that's not our native, that's not off our native list though, right?
No, it is, except
okay.
We wanted it to be modified a little bit more.
I'm good then.
Yeah. So this condition would kind of supersede what's on the plans. that we'd just modify it a little bit more.
All right, are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners? And if not, is there anybody who would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for NOI 2428 and approve an order of conditions that has been shown on screen and entered into the public record.
Berrigan, second.
Great. Let's do a roll call vote. All those in favor, Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Stephen Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano, aye. Thank you very much, Xander and Mr. Steary.
Thank you.
Thank you for this discussion. What's appropriate? Is there any further discussion tonight on this issue, or is the matter closed? I just don't want to exit unless.
It's closed. We're all
Great.
set.
You're good.
Wonderful. Thank you very much to all of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
One moment, please. Now on to our next public hearing. Let's see, sure. We'll reopen the public hearing to review the order of conditions for amended NOI 24-12 for revisions to the special conditions of the permit and minor plan modifications for Route 3A, Chief Justice Cushing Highway between Schofield Road in Cohasset and Henry Turner Baylor Road in Situate for the MassDOT Highway Division. The public was invited to offer input by emailing cpecdole@cohassetma.org, and details for access are on the town's website. So we're reopening the hearing. I know that MassDOT had some comments on the proposed conditions. Charlotte, is there somebody from MassDOT, or I'll let you take it away?
Yeah, Mike and Kylie, if you guys can hear me, is there anybody else I should be promoting for this hearing discussion? If anybody's in the audience for
No.
MassDOT as well, please raise your hand and I'll promote you. But can you both state your names and affiliation for the record, and we can get started?
Kylie, you want to go first?
Sure thing. Kylie Abuzed, MassDOT environmental analyst for the project.
Mike Rieger, Trans Systems, working on behalf of MassDOT.
I guess probably start with the easier portion of the conversation. Mike or Kylie, do you guys want to just go through the plan modifications?
Mike, if you have them handy,
Yes,
that would be great.
I have the plans. I'm gonna share my screen here. Share. Can everybody see these?
No.
It's coming through now.
Now? Sorry, I didn't hit the button.
Yes, I can see it.
Is it working okay with the view and stuff? This is Bluebeam. It's not Adobe, so I can kind of zoom in.
Yeah, it's the
Thanks.
same issue that we're seeing your whole desktop instead of just the plan.
You're seeing like down here and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Adobe's really made a serious error here with standalone reader.
Let me just share again then with the try to get it just so it's the plans.
That's
Is that better? Is that better? Okay.
A little.
Yeah, so there was really not really any updates to the plans except for the landscape section from MassDOT. Want us to cluster some of the replication area, like cluster some of the plantings together instead of having them initially all spread out like a grid, more or less. That's really the only change. The major changes were just some of the orders of conditions. that we got on July 11th. And then we had a meeting with Charlotte and MassDOT and kind of went through some of the language to be updated. I think, Charlotte, you kind of took the bull by the horns on that, and updated all the orders, right? And then are we just gonna go through that and see if we agree on that language? Is
Yeah.
that the intent here? I'm just kind of trying to figure out what exactly we're trying to accomplish on this. Just, you know,
Yeah, that works best for the
Okay.
commission. Mr. Chair, did you want us to pull up maybe the comments first and then I can pull up the drafted stuff? It would definitely be hard to pull up both at the same time to
Sure,
read them.
that seems like it would make sense to grab the comments first, to give
Okay.
some context for the updated orders or conditions.
Okay. But no more comments on the plans?
If this was there any further discussion, Mike, that you wanted, any other
No.
changes to the plans themselves that you thought we should be aware of?
no, nothing.
Okay, so it is really just largely a discussion of the amended conditions based on feedback from the applicant.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have that comment letter? If not, I can pull it up. Oh,
Can you still see my
those are my
screen?
conditions.
Can you see this? Is this what you want to go through?
We can, those are the red
the-
line conditions, I think.
Yeah, those are my
sorry.
red line edits. And then, do you have the letter that you guys sent, or sorry, that MassDOT sent?
Yes.
Yes, that, thank you.
This one. This one here.
Yes, please.
Yep. All right. So you're gonna just read through these then?
I mean, I don't know if you have to read them word for word, but
Okay.
if you want to sort of summarize what the concern was with each condition and I'm sorry, Charlotte, please go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that was going to be my comment, that I think we can probably summarize, at least this first one, it was just some bylaw language that was in our template condition. So I just crossed it out because this is a project that's exempt from local bylaws. So that's pretty much the first one.
Okay. Condition 27. Inspect on a daily basis.
And if you prefer for Charlotte, do you know offhand what these are to summarize? It might be easier than Mike getting reacquainted. Yeah, I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I haven't really reviewed
Yeah,
these.
no worries. I can help, Mike.
At all. Okay.
If you're able to zoom in on them a little bit. So condition 27, this is another template condition. We have inspect on a daily basis, but given the size of the project site, I think realistically, they're probably not, the entire project perimeter probably isn't going to get checked every single day. So they were suggesting that obviously the contractor will have oversight of the controls on a daily basis during active construction. And that the inspection of the erosion controls will occur is required on a weekly basis and after each incident of rainfall exceeding 0.25 inches in 24 hours. So, realistically, I think it's just some change to our template conditions about inspecting them on a weekly basis, as well as after the incidence of rainfall exceeding 0.25 inches within 24 hours. And that the contractor still has to provide daily oversight of the controls during active construction. So just keeping an eye on them, making sure excavators aren't damaging them, no one's running over them. But yeah, in terms of walking the entire, up and down every single day, that's probably not realistic on 3A for, I think it's about a mile-long project.
Do you want to scroll past or Charlotte, do you want to? Yeah, great.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nope.
and obviously Mike and Kylie, feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything. So 28, 29, and 35, these are all of our template conditions. So in terms of the excess soils be removed to an upland area outside of all protected areas, given the tight constraints of the site, that's pretty much a common pattern with, the site that we're dealing with. They're asking to, yeah, it's not always feasible to excavate them outside of the 100-foot buffer and 200-foot, because you're dealing with, with a really tight limit of work in the right of way on 3A. So you can't always get the excavated material out of every buffer zone and riverfront area. So they're asking to modify it to just say that the soils will be removed to the outside of the buffer zones in the riverfront area to the basically maximum extent feasible. You know, as long as they're not in the wetland, I obviously personally don't have a problem with that, but yeah, I think that that was just some language change there. And then for 29, in terms of the disturbed soils, our template language is stabilized after each workday. They're asking to revise it to stabilization of disturbed areas within 14 calendar days or daily when feasible. That seems to be a fair edit, you know, because I don't think stabilizing it at the end of each workday, maybe that's a note for us to modify our template. You know, I mean, if they're coming to the work site every single day, I mean, seems a little, I don't know. And then for 35, it was more bylaw comments. So just with the relation to the 50-foot buffer, I just took that out in some of my edits, which I'll show because, you know, the 50-foot buffer relates solely to our bylaws, not, you know, for this project, it's exempt. And then for the work in the resource area to be done in low flow conditions, and that the approved river and stream work has to be done in low flow conditions and not after any storm event. Basically, the contractor will seek to work in low flow conditions as much as possible, but during heavy rainfall during construction will require the contractor to work in a higher than, you know, normal low flow conditions with water management strategies in place. And then they're basically just saying that they'll monitor rainfall and work in low flow conditions to the maximum extent possible. So I guess maybe we can talk about that one. But that was the end of the template conditions. So this is probably a good place for me to stop. And maybe the commission can weigh in on the template stuff. And then 50B onward were the special conditions we wrote specifically for this project.
Do any of the commissioners have any comments on the sort of amendments to the template conditions? Okay. Where these are our templates, but they're not necessarily based on our bylaw, obviously, because they're exempt from our bylaw, but they're just things that we like to see contractors do that aren't necessarily rooted in any governing authority. Is that right?
So in terms of the template language, a lot of it is definitely in relation to our bylaw, but in terms of word for word, no. Like this is our template has kind of existed for decades, and we've been modifying it, and we issue the template conditions with every permit.
Sure.
Obviously, sometimes the template language isn't 100% applicable to every project.
I mean, my only thing is just, you know, the feasible and extent possible and, you know, non-monitored. I mean, it's basically removing this as a condition unless there was some further follow-up, right? Like asking the contractor, you know, to, in the event that they don't comply with this condition, will, you know, give a report to the agent or something as to the reason why. I don't necessarily want to require that, but I think this language essentially removes these conditions. I mean, there's no real teeth to it, you know, and there's no follow-up. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just see the state coming in, doing a bunch of construction in Cohasset and ignoring our template conditions. Although I like the project, I like the walk there. So I don't know if any other commissioners had any thoughts on that basis. Otherwise, we can keep moving forward.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
it's kind of my feeling as well, Valerio's. But I just don't know that. I don't know what there is that we can do about it.
The only thing I can think we could do about it is, you know, if we, you know, when it's to the extent possible or feasible, et cetera, if there isn't you know, an occurrence where they have to deviate from the template condition, maybe just to give Charlotte a brief report as to when and why. You know, that would be the only thing that I could see that we could do, you know, and I don't know, Commissioner McIntyre, if that makes sense to you or anyone else in the commission. I'm not trying to create more, you know, hassle or administrative work for anybody. We're essentially eliminating the condition though with this language, which, yeah. So I don't know if that's, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I mean, Charlotte, with them being exempt, what can we do to, what would you suggest as the person that would be on the ground? Kind of, don't want to make
So at least in
way
terms of
too
the
much work
language
for you either.
that's- Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chris. Sorry. Sorry, were you just asking? You were asking me what I would recommend?
Yeah.
Or? Well, at least with the language that specifically states the bylaw, like definitely cross that out, you know, just because this project's exempt. But I definitely see both of your points about if you add to the maximum extent practicable, that basically is kind of that's a huge gray area. And on a daily basis, I would not be able to essentially monitor that. So, you know, there is definitely an option to take out the template conditions or to summarize them and make them a little bit simpler. Unfortunately, I did not prepare that tonight. I was just revising the specific language based on the comments, but you know, you both brought up good points. If you add that maximum extent practicable language, you know, that's instead of saying don't do it, now it's saying do it, but do your best kind of thing. So, I mean, it's
If do your best is the best we can do, then let's
Yeah.
just leave it. Let's leave
unfortunately, I
it.
don't know how much of an option you have to, you know, because this is it's a large project. I think it's about a mile on 3A. You're working within a very tight constraint within a limit of work, you know, between the road expanding, you know, that area up to the limit. And then there's obviously some temporary or permanent easements that'll be done. So it's already a very tight space in terms of limit of work. So I'm not really sure of alternatives. Like a lot of the conditions that we'll go through relate to obviously keeping things off site, keeping things like, you know, in areas that are supposed to be outside of sensitive areas. But, you know, again, given the tight constraints on 3A, you can't just take up 3A and put a bunch of stuff in the middle of it. So, you know, and moving it off site sometimes might even do more damage in certain areas. So unfortunately, I'm not sure what other alternative you have. But I mean, to Valerio's comment about notifying the agent, I mean, I'm happy to do that if MassDOT and, you know, if the contractor is okay with that, and maybe a final summary report can just, maybe that can be included in the final report to just, you know, work with the agent on a frequent basis if any of these conditions need to be
I was
deviated
just trying to come up with like, you know, having somebody, if they're going to deviate, to just at least give them a pause for a second. Like, okay, I'm going to deviate now, so I'm going to have to at least explain to somebody eventually why I did. Otherwise, there's really no point in having the condition at all. But I'm also not trying to belabor and create a problem. But you know, if we're going to have the condition in there, and we're going to say don't deviate unless you have to. I'd like to have somebody maybe at the end of the day say, okay, I did deviate, you know, this month or this week, and this is why I had to.
Okay.
But if maybe we could vote on that condition separately, and if the rest of the commission.
Maybe, yeah, that would be a question, I think, for MassDOT. So Kylie and Mike, what I saw with a sewer lining project, this was, you know, working within MassDOT's property, but it was proposed by a private applicant. The contractor and the engineering company had sent me weekly reports. I don't know if that's something that you had intended to do all along. And they didn't just send them to me, they sent them to like the whole entire, you know, like fire, police, DPW, myself. I don't know if that's something that maybe we could consider, you know, to just include a note about order of conditions compliance with any potential deviations on like a weekly reporting basis, just so I don't have, you know, just so the contractor doesn't have to call me every second that he or she is planning to, you know, do something a little different. Does that make sense? Or is that something that you guys had already, you know, thought of in the contracts or?
I don't know if we had thought about them in terms of the contract. I can certainly take it up with our construction compliance team and see if it's something they're comfortable taking on.
Okay.
Just because they have their own reports that they work on quite often, so
Yeah.
I don't want to kind of load them up with stuff. So if we want to move towards that, and then I can take it to her tomorrow morning, and Charlotte, I can just shoot you an email once we kind of get an idea of the next steps from there.
Okay.
I'm fine with leaning in that direction with the understanding that it'll have to be something we kind of flesh out in the long term.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, if that would be like a very simple, like add one condition about the weekly reporting to, you know, report in writing any deviations to the special conditions and just quick explanation, you know, and then if we have to do any follow-up site visits, we can do that on a case-by-case basis. But that would just be in terms of, instead of doing any edits whatsoever, maybe except taking out the specific language referencing the bylaw, maybe you could just add one condition about, you know, the deviations, and just including those in a weekly report or something like that. There are some conditions that we may or may not need to tweak just based on the actual site work, but at least for overall, I'm, you know, to keep it simpler, I'm actually good with that if the commission wants to do that and if that's feasible for MassDOT and the contractor.
Another thing I wanted to add, Charlotte, like I've worked on Mass DOT projects before, like during construction, and they're
Mhm.
typically like the resident engineer has weekly meetings or
Yeah.
bi-weekly meetings, and usually the town is on those meetings, whether it's
Okay,
the town engineer or the conservation agent. So
okay.
I think you're gonna be pretty involved with the project, just
Yeah,
generally,
yeah.
like, so I don't know if you need to have it in writing necessarily in these conditions or not. Like, I think you're just gonna naturally be sort of involved with this
I
project.
think in
With,
terms of just compliance overall, whether it's included in weekly reports or in a final report, I think something in writing would just be good because obviously at the end, we're gonna entertain a request for a certificate of compliance.
okay,
So
that's fine.
I definitely, yes, I'm happy to attend any and all remote or site visit meetings, you know, just so that I'm aware. And then obviously it'll make so much more sense by the time the final work comes in and the as-built comes in, like I will, I hope, remember everything that, you know, occurred. But I think whether it's in a final report or weekly reports or whatever is feasible, I think something in writing would just, I think, satisfy in terms of just documenting compliance. And then I think that seems like the commission would be interested in that as well.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Do you guys want me to, I can write a condition for that at the end, but do you guys want me to kind of keep going with summarizing these or?
You want, should we just run through the rest of them? I only stopped us there because those were the deviations from our
Yeah.
standard. So
Yeah, those are the
yeah, let's run
template.
through the rest of the special conditions that we had
Okay.
here.
Okay, so, for the SWPPP, that's the Stormwater Prevention Pollution Plan, that's produced as part of an EPA general construction permit. So we wanted it to include, equipment and offsite vehicle washing stations, stockpiling and staging areas. Basically, it kind of is a similar comment that they can't, you know, do all that offsite. It's really hard to, you know, relocate everything. And for instance, generators are kept used to keep materials warm and situated in specific locations for long periods of time. Moving excavators, loaders, construction equipment offsite for refueling can cause adverse impacts to roadway integrity, traffic generation, greenhouse gas emissions, et cetera. There are definitely BMPs, I think, with other state permits about minimizing emissions as well. And then, you know, so I think it's, again, just a realistic expectation of, you know, you may not be able to do a lot of this off-site, and it'll probably be done on site, you know, so that's that comment. And then spill contingency plan, basically they have an EHASP, so an environmental health and safety plan. So that kind of does incorporate spill contingency, you know, BMPs. So basically that just, you know, trading the wording spill contingency for the EHSP to receive that in writing. And I think, Mike, was that included in the letter? Did we get the EHS, you know what I mean? Did we
Yeah,
get
that
that in the amended letter?
Yeah, that was in the back of the letter, the environmental health and safety plan. I can show you now if you want.
Yeah, it's,
Just
yeah.
quickly.
So essentially we have it. So instead of the spill contingency plan, we have this that was already produced for the other requirements. So if you guys are okay with modifying it to just accept the EHASP, then good for me if it's good for you guys.
Yeah, this is the standard item for that.
Okay. And I'm sorry, is that included in the contract or the?
It's included in the contract, but it was also included in Melissa's letter to you.
Yes, okay.
So this is that whole document, 49-page document.
Okay, and it has all
Um,
the spill contingency measures? I'm sorry, I did not read it word for word.
I think so. I didn't actually read it right before this, but it should cover everything for the whole item.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to keep going and then we
Yeah,
can go
please
back
keep
and
going. I mean,
summarize them?
I don't know whether, yes, please keep going. Yep.
Yeah, so we can come back, starting at 50B, we can come back to them and weigh in. And by the way, condition 50 was stuff that needed to happen before construction on the side. There's many multiple sub conditions. And then the trees and vegetation proposed to remain within or just outside limit of work shall be marked. So since a lot of this might occur on private property, they may not have the right to obviously stake everything that's on someone's private property. So they're asking just to amend the condition to be limited to the trees and vegetation within the footprint of the project easement.
I think that makes sense.
And then similar to the condition changes above, no equipment or construction materials to be stored within wetland resource areas and shall be stored upland. Temporarily staging within the buffers and resource area riverfront is unavoidable due to logistic challenges to relocate heavy equipment. And then the running of tracked construction equipment frequently on roadways can have, adverse impacts on the integrity, cause unnecessary greenhouse gas emissions. So similar comments to the other conditions above about moving equipment, storing equipment, moving, stockpiling, refueling offsite. Basically, it sounds like based on these comments, they want to stay where they are. If that's being, to very simply put it, they want to stay where they are with any, stabilization practices that they have to do to keep things to the minimum of not relocating every single day. And so that's that comment. And then this one, trees larger than 4-inch caliper to be removed within wetland resource areas or buffer zones to be replaced with native species to the maximum extent practicable. We understood at the time that you're working within a tight space within the limit of work. So their comments were basically that the plans don't show any proposed trees within the limit of grading. The plans have a 2-to-1 slope. It's not practicable to plant and maintain trees on 2-to-1 slopes. The trees cannot be planted and maintained in a clear zone in the state highway layout. Disturbed areas outside of the main clear zone are expected to be revegetated with seeds from surrounding area. It's basically in terms of the slope they're going to do, the clear vegetation area where they're just doing mowing. And then pretty much after that, it's private property outside of that. So it's basically not probably possible to plant trees, to replace any trees being removed, although they do note that they're not showing any proposed trees. They're not showing any proposed trees within the limit of grading. So basically that's kind of just saying that this condition probably can't be.
Doesn't apply. Yeah.
And then 58, no open trenches at the end of the workday. They may have open trenches, but what they would do is they would cover them. So they would, put like steel plates or something over it or something like that. So basically just, they would have open trenches potentially at the end of the workday, but they're going to definitely secure them to make sure that they're safe and nobody just walks in there. I don't know who would on 3A, but so that's just, I think, a minor language change. And then in terms of the chemical fertilizers, herbicides, insecticides, pesticides to be used at the site, they are going to need to use, the fertilizer. We talked about during our meeting that we thought that it was feasible if the fertilizer is only used in the areas outside of the buffer zones and resource areas. So that area, for example, in front of Shaw's, that's outside of the buffer zones, they would, expect to use fertilizers in that landscaped area, because I think that's where a good portion of the landscaping would actually be. The herbicides would need to be used to effectively manage, when you're preparing the replication area and, just for in general with, so I think we had asked, and one of the conditions that I drafted was to ask for basically an invasive species plan of what they plan to do. The conditions as they are set right now, I will definitely be working with the wetland specialist who is brought on by the contractor to oversee the stream relocation, the wetlands replication. So as part of that, I would recommend maybe we add a condition about looking at the invasive species management plan of what herbicides they intend to use, how much, where. So I think realistically, Kylie and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, we said we agreed on no fertilizers in the buffer zones or resource areas, that they would need to use herbicides, and that we didn't want pesticides or insecticides because I don't think that's applicable here anyway. So
Yeah, that sounds right. What we said during our meeting a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so I've suggested language on that. And then refueling, same thing as above, that again, relocating, moving that all complicated, creates additional emissions, hurts the road that they're fixing. And then 65 last comment. So we had a conservation marker condition, which is pretty standard for us to, want to see that at the end of the project to preserve this area long term. We had a chat with the, with MassDOT about this, that there were concerns about, putting them obviously in the clear zone for mowing, and obviously not putting them on private property. So I modified this condition to specify a few things about what markers would be used, where they're going to go, how far they're going to be spaced out. This was a discussion that we had a few weeks ago on a call, and I just put that language in the condition. So I'm okay with it if you guys are okay with it. I just wanted to note that it was discussed beforehand before I redrafted this specific condition. So that's the end for the comments, and then all the other conditions after condition 65, I think everyone was okay with. But we can go back maybe to 50B and just, commissioners probably just let me know what you think.
I mean, if you'd like to run through the actual conditions now that we're going to be, potentially.
You guys want me to do that? Yeah, I'm sorry. We are definitely way over the 15 minutes. I'm sorry. This is hard to get through in 15 minutes.
No, I mean, it seems like the general theme here is we'll do it if we can.
Yeah, that's basically it.
It seems like that's sort of with everything. We'll do it if we can. And I don't know, what the appropriate response to that is. So let's take a look at the conditions as they're now drafted and see
okay.
if it resolves any of that.
Okay. Sorry, Mike, I'm taking over.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I just had the red line version, I guess, right?
Yeah, so that's the red line I gave you guys. So again, with this first one, just take out the bylaw language. I think that's fair, right?
Yep.
And then so starting with the stuff about checking the erosion stuff daily, I changed it to weekly as well as after the rainfall, and then just providing daily oversight during active construction. Does this one seem okay?
Yep.
Anybody
it does
else?
to me. And commissioners weigh in if don't wait to be called on as we run through these.
I'll just keep going, and obviously definitely cut in if you guys have a comment or an edit. So, I mean, again, maximum extent feasible. Maybe we can come to a condition at the end about the written deviation stuff, but I'll keep going for now. And then instead of after each workday, stabilizing the site after each workday, or sorry, the exposed soils within 14 calendar days and/or daily when feasible. So just, we don't ask, I'll be honest, I don't really enforce this condition on a daily basis for every project in town. That's really difficult, but I definitely do keep an eye on sites that haven't had active work for a while. So for example, if everyone goes on vacation for a week or 2 weeks, I would, obviously expect for the site to be contained and stabilized. But if they're coming back at 7 a.m. the next day, it's one of those things of like, if I know there's a big rainstorm coming, I definitely try to touch base with the sites I know are active construction sites. And I try to say, hey, can you just, check your site before and after, fix whatever you need to fix, because that's when I get a lot of complaints as well. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys if you're okay with the 14 calendar day and/or daily when feasible, but just to put it into perspective, that's a difficult condition to enforce for every project because nobody really does that. I definitely notify them when it's been left alone for a while, obviously. And then this is kind of the 50-foot buffer stuff. So I took out the stuff that specifically relates to our bylaw about, the no alteration 50-foot buffer zone. So that's bylaw specific for condition 35. But I still kept the language about, only the approved alterations in the buffer zone are allowed and have to be minimized. The work in the low flow conditions, I mean, I said to the maximum extent possible with water management strategies in place, and then any approved work within the rivers and streams. I specifically named Bound Brook and the unnamed intermittent stream that will be relocated have to be done in low flow conditions and not during any storm event. So I think we did talk about that, these were definitely the more sensitive areas. And I think we talked about definitely making sure that, you're not working in a torrential downpour with excavators in these areas.
It's up 39 well, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then 50, this is the big prior to construction. We had a lot of stuff for this one. So again, maximum extent feasible. You know, getting the EHASP instead of spill contingency, taking out the off-site language just because
Can
realistically.
I add
that-
something? I
Yeah.
know that we're, you know, time-wise, this is taking a little longer, but I don't know if Mike or Kylie, you know, it seems like some of the objections here might just be classic objections to any, you know, conditions like this. I mean, it is a very, you know, tight area. It seems like refueling your trucks like right up in the buffer zone there is can't be necessary. You know, maybe I'm overstating it, but maybe these objections to our conditions were ones that you might get no matter what. I mean, because this is all so close. I mean, it's not going to take a lot to move the truck, you know, 20 feet, you'd be out of the area. So I don't know if there's any comment on that, but yeah.
I
just
think it
see
was more
refueling yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I think the whole Route 3, like north of Beechwood Street, the whole road is within the 100-foot buffer because there's wetlands on both sides of the road. So there's really just nowhere to go. Like you'd have to drive. I
Okay,
don't even know if there's anywhere within the site that's not within the buffer zone.
yeah,
Maybe
you're right, I'm with it.
closer to Shaw's maybe, but it just I
The
think they were
Shaw's area is probably the area that I would say is outside.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so like, I'd say that whole Shaw's area that has that grass slope, that area is
Where the-
outside of the buffer zone.
So they would
Um,
yeah, that's
I
true.
just have
But
this
the-
like horrible vision of, you know, somebody like, you know, refueling and pouring gas and spilling over and like, you know, being right, you know, right next to the wetland. And, you know, it just seems gross to me, you know, like, and if we sort of give like, you know, a carte blanche to, you know, a construction team who isn't really as sensitive to Cohasset's, you know, conservation as this group is, you know, it just seems, yeah, it's gross, you know, like and so I don't know what it would be. I don't know what the solution is, but it seems like there should be something better than, yeah, you can refuel wherever you want, you know. I'm not so, yeah, I don't know if the other commissioners have any thoughts on that.
There might be a way to just specifically say that, you know, definitely don't refuel or wash any vehicles directly in front of any flagged wetlands, streams, you know, along 3A. So just like
Or we could say
making
like
sure they're
north
not
of
doing it
Beechwood Street.
immediately in front of the wetland. Like if the wetland's right here and you're refueling right there, don't do that, you know, just, I don't know. If there's a way to maybe just kind of state the obvious that we don't want this happening in the very close proximity to the wetlands. Is that feasible?
Yeah, I'd say you could leave that. Kylie, maybe you can speak to this, but I don't think that was necessarily cookie cutter from other projects. I think that was more specific for this project.
Yeah, I think our concern was just how tight the limit of work is in the right of way, and
Yeah.
you know, we're abutting wetlands on both sides, so no matter where we are in terms of large construction equipment, we're kind of stuck, for lack of a better term. So I mean, it definitely isn't cookie cutter response from us, but I think our concern, especially from the construction compliance side, is just we don't want to cause more impacts because we're moving these large vehicles back and forth and possibly, you know, rolling over a wetland unintentionally or what have you. So the idea of not moving unless absolutely necessary was the better choice than moving these large vehicles, you know, every time they needed to refuel or at the end of every day.
Yeah. So I guess, Kylie, would this work? I mean, we can, you know, maybe talk about the odds and ends for the other conditions, but basically just a general condition about no refueling, vehicle washing, any other activities we don't want to see directly in front of the flagged wetlands and streams on the site. I don't know about stockpiling, just because, you know, you may have to keep some of that stuff for the stream relocation.
Sure.
But basically, we don't want to see a bunch of stuff right in front of a wetland, I guess, you know?
Right. Yeah. And we get that. I think that could be okay.
Okay. How about
again,
like
these
no
are-
soil or material stockpiling is allowed directly in front of these areas. unless that stuff is being specifically used for the restoration work. Does that kind of make sense? You know?
Yeah, unless needed for the restoration work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that could be okay.
Or
Okay.
instead of in front, you might say adjacent to, right? Because I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you. That's a much better.
And then above also in the beginning of that sentence in front.
Yep.
But yeah.
Um,
I don't want this to read now though that, you know, refueling and washing is automatically allowed if it's not directly adjacent to, but there's only so much we can do. I think the fact that this is a large project and also a really tight project sort of cuts both ways, right? I mean, one, it's an excuse to do a lot of this stuff, but it's also means we need to be extra sensitive to this stuff as well. Yeah.
I can make these two separate conditions to make it really clear. Does that sound okay in regards to a lot of the conditions about, you know, working within the buffer zone and 200-foot riverfront to the maximum extent practicable, but then we have these conditions to combat that saying, don't do it directly, or sorry, adjacent to these areas. Is everyone okay with that?
Works for me. I don't even know if we need the word directly in there, but
I can say immediately adjacent. That's probably better.
I mean, adjacent means yeah, I won't nitpick that. I'll leave that to you. We should keep moving.
Whatever you guys want.
Yeah, I don't think you need a qualifier on adjacent.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. So this one I think I'm okay with this, you know, just because they probably can't be flagging stuff on private property, so within the footprint of the project easement. And then in terms of wetland specialists, you guys can ignore this. I was just capitalizing it. So this is the condition that I proposed in regards to their comments about using herbicides and potentially using fertilizers. So I just said invasive species management plan by a qualified professional shall be submitted to and approved by the agent prior to any removal of invasive species and or application of herbicides. So that would be something that, you know, we'd work with the wetland specialist and, you know, we would receive that document just to kind of, you know, document what's going to happen in there. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, as long as there's some oversight. Their comment made it seem like there'd be none. If they go to you with the plan and you have
Yeah.
to say, okay, this looks good, that's good enough for me. I'm happy that
Yeah.
there's some oversight bias. That works.
I think this was in the contractor's comments, was it not, Mike? I think the comment letter did mention something about invasive species management plan, so I kind of just
It
took
did, but
that
Yeah.
language.
it didn't go as far as to say that we had
Got it.
any influence over that management plan. Now that
Yeah.
now that they're required to submit it to you and you get to read through and say this looks fine or it
Yeah.
doesn't, that's good enough for
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
When you say
Um,
agent there, do you want to say like,
That's Charlotte.
Cohasset agent or something like that? Cohasset conservation agent? Or is it that's implied it's you, I guess?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a Cohasset order of conditions, but
Okay.
I mean, this one again, this was really just trying to address the specific work that's going to be happening within the streams, the wetlands, and near Bound Brook for creating that splash pad. You know, we want the work to be done as soon as possible. No equipment shall be stored in these areas for longer than necessary. The project work shall be stopped if any equipment or materials are found to be stored within these areas after the required work is completed and will not be allowed to continue until such equipment are removed. So basically, once the work is done in these areas, we don't want to see that stuff in there once the work is done, which I assume they would move it out. So I guess this kind of gives this condition a little bit more teeth about equipment and materials directly in the resource areas, because they are going to need to go in there with excavators and equipment to relocate the stream to, you know, dig out the wetland replication area. It's basically like, I'm okay with it as long as it's not staying there long term.
I would
Because,
change as soon as possible to as quickly as practicable.
okay. Because removing the excavator daily, you know, in and out of the wetland and in and out of where the stream's going to be relocated, that might do more damage. The only obviously caveat to that is, you know, if any of those vehicles are leaking, they're going to be sitting there until the work is done in there. So it's pros and cons. But I think the repeated movement of getting those vehicles and excavators in and out, especially if you do get a bout of, like a rainstorm, that might do more damage than keeping them there. So, this was just trying to kind of, provide that additional clarification that we're okay with it in there as long as it's only in there while the restoration work is being done. And once it's done, you take it out. So you don't keep it in there for the whole course of the project.
Is it too much to ask that any vehicle be properly maintained, any vehicle being stored within our
Oh
resource?
yeah, we
area?
have a condition for that. It's just,
Okay.
yeah, we have a condition for that. It's just, but I mean, does this make sense to everybody? Kylie, Mike, Mission, do you guys, I know this is kind of crazy edit here, but I don't know, I was just trying to find a median point.
Makes sense to me.
It's good.
I think the outfall location, the equipment shouldn't be there that long to do
Yeah.
that. It might be like
It'll
a
only be
day
okay.
or something,
Like a couple days. Yeah, I think we talked about that.
And then when they're building the wetland replication area, that might take a couple days, and I'm probably thinking they're gonna leave the vehicle in that upland area while they're digging it out to create it. I think that kind of covers it with this sentence here,
Yeah. The tree one, yeah, I mean, based on the comments, it basically says they probably won't be able to plant any trees given the tight constraints of the site within the, the clear state highway layout, where you just mow it. So, I mean, I guess this is up to the commission. I don't know if you guys want to just take it out entirely. I tried to revise it to try and find a median point, but we did originally, we always had maximum extent practicable. We understood the tight constraints of the site, but I don't think this condition could, I think based on their comments that I think they're saying they probably will not be able to plant any trees to replace anything being removed in the buffers. Other than the wetland replication area, which they are proposing trees in there. So I don't know what you guys think about this. If you want to take it out, edit it. I don't know. I know this is tough, but I guess, oh, Valerio, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be an issue anyway, following the comment, so I think we just leave it. I think it's.
Mike and Kylie, is that good for you guys? I mean, again, I think we understand the tight constraints of the site, but if there is any possibility to put in any trees, we'd like to see it. But I think we know that it's probably not going to happen. And if it does, it's probably only going to be a few.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Works for me.
And all right. And I just specified within the replication area or within any project easements, just to kind of clarify that obviously we don't expect trees to be planted on someone's private property. Yeah. And then this is unprotected trenches, and that all open trenches shall be contained with best management practices. At the end of the day, I had already defined BMPs further up. So, and then specifying the herbicides and stuff, I just said may only be used to the minimum extent within the wetlands and stream, right, blah, 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 blah. So basically like it pairs with the condition that I want to see an invasive species management plan. It's basically using them only to the minimum extent, not spraying the crap out of everything. And then fertilizers are only allowed for landscaping and planting purposes outside of the 100-foot buffer and the 200-foot riverfront area. Basically, that area probably in front of Shaw's is one of the areas in Cohasset that'll probably be used, but we didn't want them in the buffer zones or resource areas. And then we still kept no insecticides or pesticides.
All right.
Is everyone okay with this one? I'm seeing heads nodding. Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
And then the last one, I'm sorry, two last ones. So again, the refueling stuff, maximum extent practicable, but we just added those conditions above about not doing it adjacent to any wetlands or streams, et cetera. So this is based off of our conversation from the meeting that we had before this. We discussed that the perimeter of the wetland replication area and the relocated stream shall be marked with conservation markers. We agreed on a material 4x4 inch cedar wood stakes placed about every 8 to 12 feet apart, extending from finished ground at a minimum of 2 feet, maximum of 3 feet. And then that there'll be a sign that says wetlands protection area, no disturbance, alteration allowed beyond this point, or similar language. I think we found shorter language for that. The markers shall only be installed within MassDOT property, and that the final locations of the markers will be determined with the wetland specialist, MassDOT, and the agent prior to project completion. So the comments on this were obviously not putting them on private property. You know, we defined a distance, you know, because the condition didn't specify. We defined a specific material and with a sign, you know, just to be very specific, exactly what we wanted instead of keeping it general. Being specific in this case was actually better for the contracts. So if the commissioners don't have any objections to this, or if you have any edits, let us know.
I don't,
No,
the
okay,
other commissioners haven't spoken up, so I think we're probably okay.
It's good.
okay, and that was it. I just changed wetland specialist to capital, so I just tried to be consistent throughout the order. But I guess, do we still want a condition about any written deviations, either in the final report or weekly reports? What are you guys feeling for that? You know, if we're revising this language, I guess, is anybody not okay with any of this language for certain conditions of just leaving it as is and adding that condition about just documenting deviations? What do you
You know,
guys think?
honestly, as far as I'm concerned, it's been tightened up, and there's really only sort of, you know, barely any conditions left where I think it's necessary. So I'm happy to forego that.
Okay.
If unless one of the other commissioners wants to chime in, but I'm happy to forego it. Because I'm afraid that if we put language in there, if any conditions are deviated from, it shall be reported. It's almost
It's
you
almost
know,
like we're
permission-
acknowledging it.
Permission to deviate from the conditions, and then you know,
Yeah.
just let us know. So I don't want to. Yeah, I'd rather not include language like that.
Okay. I'm good with it if you guys are good with it, whatever you guys want to do. I'm fine, and I think if I'm gonna be a part of these calls, I'm gonna be notified, you know, and I don't know if we have to put a condition in for that, but I think as a courtesy, obviously, for, you know, we're all gonna be involved in this project, so I think I would have probably been a part of the calls anyway. There's gonna be multiple site visits. I'll make sure the contractor has my cell phone, obviously, so, you know, if ever there are any questions that come up, there's clearly a lot of inspections here, so
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be at the site a lot. But yeah. So nobody wants like a condition about, that's a good point, Valeria, about just acknowledging we know there's gonna be deviations. I'm good with not putting in a condition in that case.
I'm good. I don't have any further comments on the conditions. I appreciate everybody's time on them.
Yeah.
What does everyone else think?
I think Valerio made a good point about leaving the statement about the conditions out.
Yeah,
So I agree with that, yeah.
I'm good with these changes.
okay. Tom, Steve? Any,
This is fine.
I'll speak up if I have a complaint.
okay.
Or are we at the point where we're ready to issue this order of conditions, or how? Or do we not even do, I mean, I'm a little
You would vote
confused.
on an amended one.
Vote on, I'm sorry, vote on the issue the amended, or vote on the amended order of conditions.
Yes.
I don't
on
know
whether
if, I mean, is that, are we ready for that? Or is there some reason that they would go back to MassDOT with these new drafted conditions before we take the vote on the amended one?
Yeah, good question. Kylie or Mike, did anybody, when I sent them to you guys, I apologize, I sent them a couple days ago, but did anybody at MassDOT or in general have any comments about my language, not counting the stuff we just added tonight?
No, Melissa had been comfortable with it. I think the only thing I'll wanna bring up with our construction compliance team is the weekly reports to you. Not that I think it'll be a concern. I just want to make sure they're comfortable with
Kylie,
that
I think
being
we left that out,
conditioned.
actually.
Oh,
Kylie,
Yeah, we
even
actually
better.
didn't put a
we
condition in
wound
for
up
that.
not, we wound up not using that, yeah.
Great, then I have nothing, so I'm
Okay.
fine. Everyone was fine with it.
Okay, no, that's good. And yeah, like I said, I'll be at the site a lot with the required inspections. And then Mike had mentioned the weekly or bi-weekly calls, so I'm sure I'll be a part of those. And if there are any issues during construction, we can talk about it. So,
So does any commissioner I don't imagine there's anybody from the public who'd like to chime in on this project. Is anybody raising their hand, or any other comments or questions?
I don't know if anyone's raised their hand, but I don't see any Q&A.
Would any commissioner like to make a motion to approve the amended order of conditions for NOI 24-12?
Sure, I make a motion to approve the amended conditions for NOI 24-12 as we've reviewed, and as is seen on screen.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Yep. Do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Bell. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Manuel, aye.
Valerio Romano, aye. Great. We move that one along. So the public hearing is closed as well.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Guys,
Thank you, Commissioner.
Appreciate your
Charlotte,
time.
thank you.
Thank you everyone so much.
Thanks, Mike and Kylie. May I
Thank you.
suggest a quick 5-minute break? I think we're, probably halfway through or more than halfway through the agenda.
Yep.
Would that be all right with everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, quick 5-minute break. Let's be back, 8:33 or so.
33 or
Great.
so.
Or so, yeah. Thank you.
All right, everyone ready?
We're all back? Great. So the next is a continued public hearing, still open from August 22nd for NOI 24-27 to reconfigure the parking lot and install a walkway and a new septic system at 739 Chief Justice Cushing Highway. Is any member from the applicant team available to be promoted? Mr. Hassett. Hey, Jeff.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good evening. Jeff Hassett here, civil engineer with Morse Engineering here on behalf of the property owner. As you noted, this is a continued hearing for an NOI for 807 CJC Highway. This project was permitted twice in the past. There haven't been any changes to the design, but the permits had expired, so we're back in front of you. We went over the project in the meeting 2 weeks ago, and we ended up continuing it in order to draft conditions, specifically prohibiting the storage of any potentially hazardous material in the areas near the wetland. Charlotte was kind enough to draft those conditions. I've reviewed them with the property owner, who doesn't have any objections to them. So the only update I have is that we did go in front of the Board of Health yesterday, and they reapproved the septic system.
Oh, great. Charlotte, do you want to bring those conditions up?
Yep. So to recap, some of our conditions were, we wanted conditions about basically the use of the property in terms of, keeping fertilizers, chemicals, vehicles, trailers, all that stuff there in the riverfront area, in the inner riparian zone. And we understand there's going to be some easements that are going to be drafted and finalized for the is it the Village Greenery? Is that the name of the nursery that's right next door?
Yeah, the conditions would apply though to the subject property.
Yeah, so they specifically apply to the subject property, and just that we don't want to see basically hazardous or chemical stuff going back there that could potentially have, an impact to Bound Brook. So this condition, I don't know if you guys want me to take it out entirely, if it was just approved by Board of Health. Jeff, were there no plan modifications?
No plan modifications, no.
Okay, do you guys want me to take this one out?
Yeah, just remove it then, since it's approved. Yeah.
So this is just to be thorough. The New England Conservation Wildlife Seed Mix that was proposed in the NOI narrative has to be installed within the buffer enhancement area around the proposed plantings as part of the buffer planting plan. I only put this in just because the language wasn't specifically added to the buffer planting plan, so I just want to make sure that that's done. The limit of work and project area and mitigation area, as well as property boundaries, need to be staked, inspected by me prior to construction. Additional erosion controls shall be installed around the limit of the mitigation planting area when that work happens, because the erosion controls are only around, where the building work's going to occur. And then following shall be implemented on the property per this order, and shall also be implemented as ongoing conditions upon the issuance of a certificate of compliance to prevent exposure and leakage of any materials and contaminants into Bound Brook and the bordering vegetated wetlands. So fertilizers, chemicals, hazardous chemically treated materials, including mulch, shall not be stored on the property within any resource area or buffer zone. Vehicles, trailers, boats of any kind shall not be parked or stored on the property within a resource area buffer zone, except within the designated proposed parking area at the front of the property as shown on the plans. No fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, any other chemicals or hazardous materials shall be used within the 200-foot riverfront area and the 100-foot buffer zone on the property. Any runoff from such materials, chemicals, vehicles shall not be allowed to drain off the property into Bound Brook. This is kind of redundant, but just we were concerned about runoff, so I put it in there. And then should any contaminants from runoff and erosion be identified on the property during and after project completion, the applicant owner shall work with the commission on restoring any affected wetland resource areas. Additional mitigation plantings may be needed, may need to be installed at the direction of the agent to improve vegetated buffer enhancement. And then the property easements shall include the conditions listed in this above. The numbering will be different when I put it in the template. That's why that's highlighted, and shall be perpetually maintained. A recorded copy of the property easement shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance, just so we can make sure that stuff makes it into the easement. And then the following site inspections for pre-construction. I don't know if you guys, I don't think we need a test pit here. And I'll defer to Jeff and the commission on this. I think the rain garden was only going to go about a foot deep, right? So
yeah, you're correct. Right now, the runoff from that those parking spaces runs off directly across the lawn and then into the woods and beyond to the wetland. So within the lawn, we're proposing a 1 foot deep grass depression. We haven't done test pits immediately in that area, but we did them close by for the septic. There's no exposed ledge in that area, so I don't anticipate any issues with excavating down 12 inches.
Okay. I can either leave it in here or take it out. I'll defer to the commission. And then stormwater, paving, landscaping, and final site inspections.
So,
Do you guys want to see a test pit or?
Maybe you could just put review. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Bell.
Yeah, I don't think a test pit's necessary. They're only excavating 12 inches.
I mean, as long as they don't hit ledge 2 inches down, sure, they'll be okay.
Yeah, and there is kind of a backup plan if they're not going to hit ledge, but if they did, it could be more a berm instead of an excavation. to create it.
Okay, and that would be something that we would just have to figure out if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I guess this is probably the most important condition. Are you guys good with this? That not only is it a part of the project, it's gonna be perpetual. It's gonna be put into the easements. We want a copy of that easement. We just want to make sure, obviously, these chemicals, vehicles, materials aren't being stored on the property.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I took out the Board of Health thing, put in the wildlife seed mix just to be a part of the planting plan, and then just staking out limit of work. That's pretty standard. Okay.
I don't have anything further. So any of the commissioners, I guess I'll just run through and ask you specifically, Commissioner Bell, do you have any further comments or questions about this project?
No, I don't.
Commissioner Berrigan,
No comments or questions.
Commissioner Magnell,
None about this project now.
Commissioner McIntyre,
No, and I will note that I did watch the previous hearing, and
oh, that's right.
I'll send that form to you.
Thank you, Chris.
And I really appreciate, taking this extra step. I know this was sort of a last minute jump in at the, but I think given the proximity to the river right behind, I'm happy that we have this, and I feel like it's pretty thorough, and I appreciate the time on this. So I don't have anything further either. Let me see. With that, do we have a motion to issue an order of conditions on the notice of intent? Would anybody like to make that, or? Great, I'll move to make a motion to issue an order of conditions for NOI 24-27 based on the standard conditions and those shown on the screen. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Blair Romano, aye. With that, we'll close the public hearing.
Oh, wait, sorry, I think
Yeah.
I'm trying to just,
do
do
we
we
need a
need a variance, Jeff?
Yeah, we need a variance.
Is the work in the 50 partially at all?
Yeah, you do.
Planting work?
We do.
Sorry, I was just pulling up the plan. Yeah, there is a little bit of work. There's work in the 50. It's for the buffer enhancement and the rain garden.
I move to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer. And
As shown in the plans.
as shown on the plan for NOI 20, no, I'm sorry, NOI 24-27, 807 Chief Justice.
I don't know why it's 739, 807 Chief Justice.
Yep.
I'll second. Commissioner Bell,
Yes.
roll call.
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Valerio Romano, aye. With that, close the public hearing. Thank you very much, Jeff.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
So let's see, next we have another continued hearing from August 22nd for NOI 21-30 to modify drainage and swale and extend the project for 3 years. And let me just confirm which address that is. I apologize. 37 Parker Ave. So Charlotte, are you, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So we opened the hearing last time. We just didn't have a discussion. So this will be the first discussion. Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me
Good.
okay?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you guys just quickly state your names and affiliation for the record? And you guys are welcome to share your screen and go ahead.
Sure. I'm Fiona Vardy with Foth.
And Paul Marsala with Hope.
Thanks for having us. All right, I will pull up the plan and let me know if I share my whole screen versus the plan. I know that was. Are you able to see the plan? Okay, great. So this is the Cohasset Harbor Marina site located at 37 Parker Avenue in Cohasset. We are requesting an amendment to the existing order of conditions as well as a 3-year extension. It's set to expire on October 28th, I believe, 2024. The site has been experiencing some ponding in the southeast corner. So we are proposing a drainage swale that will go to the edge of the site to drain the water properly. And the 3-year extension is just to ensure that all of the necessary work gets done. And I've had a couple of conversations with Charlotte just regarding the plantings and vegetation will take a little bit to get set. So we are asking for the 3-year extension to October 2027. Does anyone have any questions so far?
How do you propose to treat the water that's exiting the site, exiting that parking lot?
So the original order of conditions and the stormwater management plan will still be applicable. It's basically just rerouting. It's not affecting the stormwater management plan that was initially proposed. It's just rerouting. So instead of this area that was in the first order, it will just be going towards the northeastern corner.
And more specifically, the issue with the ponding has been happening not as the result of any major storm events such as rain. The site sheds very minimal water towards this area. What we're finding is because of sea level rise during some king high tides, the water actually just is staying ponded in there and not receding. And the intent of this area was never intended to hold on to that tidal water. It was intended to flow back into the marsh. So this is sort of a correction on the initial design. This is probably the way it should have been all along. It had initially been designed as a little bit of a pond, thinking that the water would just drain out through the sediment. Because of this marsh and the peat, it's actually just sitting there, and it's causing buildup of mosquitoes and just not a very desirable situation. The original stormwater management plan and the calculations associated with it show that the area is plenty to have any stormwater filtered down it through. It wasn't sufficient as designed to allow that constant tidal water to filter down and through. So it was staying ponded with salt water, essentially. So this will allow the tidal flow to return more to its natural, how it was prior to the site being affected.
So initially, the assumption was that any flooding here would percolate through that pervious surface that cars park on and equipment is stored on. And so now we're going to have some sheet flow out of the southeast corner of this that's going untreated in terms of sediment and perhaps even anything that's been shed from vehicles, fuel perhaps where people are manipulating their fuel tanks before they walk out on the marina to fuel their boats. So I think there is an additional concern here now that this is talking about surface water rather than percolating through the gravel.
Okay, yeah, so the way that we had interpreted the initial stormwater drainage plan that was prepared for the project was that there was sufficient penetration through this gravel lot, as well as there's infiltration trenches that actually collect water as well. That this area was sufficient to have that seep down through. What it isn't sufficient to do is allow high tidal water to seep down through with sufficient time. So we could revisit those calculations if that's required to see that through.
So explain to me, I mean, obviously sea level has not risen significantly in the last 12 months. So explain to the commission how the engineering solution here didn't anticipate this.
Yeah, so that was a design oversight essentially. The low elevation of the initial pond, the rain garden, was just lower than a high tide, which was a design oversight initially. The area of it was still used in the calculation to be able to handle the amount of storm flowage, and the area isn't changing. So if you consider a low tide situation where there is no water here, any amount of storm flowage in the calculation still wouldn't make it to the marsh. It would be diffused in time. It's that high tide situation that we're trying to allow for the water to diffuse out.
Yeah, so essentially the rain garden is not going to operate under high tide conditions. Is that correct?
Correct. Without adjusting the elevation of this entire area by adding fill, this is a tidally influenced area. It was prior to the project, and it still is. Prior to the project, without having the rain garden, we just didn't have a pond. We essentially, in trying to mitigate, we created a pond that didn't exist before, and so now this amendment is trying to address that problem that though it was essentially created with good intention.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the intention. I'm wondering whether there's an engineering solution to this. Right now, it seems like your engineered solution has failed. And so I would expect to see something that was equally effective that you have designed.
I believe the alternatives to this would be to essentially extend the bulkhead all the way across, and at some point being at the boundary, that would direct water onto the abutter's property. So you could raise the area out of the flood zone completely, which as a long-term solution may be it. The problem with that is then you're now increasing water sheet onto a butter's property. So is there, I'm not sure that there is, to keep the ponding from sitting there without installing culverts or some other hard solution. I believe that this is why we went along with the soft solution of the rain garden to begin with. Hard solutions were considered more, to cause more damage. So as far as a soft solution is, I think handling and redirecting where this water goes, understanding that the amount of impermeable surface from the prior condition prior to this project hasn't changed. The elevation was just raised. This was the more desirable solution that we found here.
Could you explain a little bit further or better to me how this was created recently?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm sorry I didn't understand that exactly.
Yeah, so for a little bit of a project background, Fiona, do you mind zooming out a little bit? So I know everybody here is familiar with the area. We're just up the street from, I believe, where that first property was here tonight, down by the boat ramp. So this is the marina. Situation has arisen over the many years where at high tides, the parking lot was flooding. So the owner was pursuing some kind of resiliency measures, raising his property up. As part of that, he needed to install some new sheet pile wall around this corner, this L. Am I able to take the screen? I'm sorry, I'm not used to zooming.
Yeah, I'm not seeing your cursor. I apologize.
Yeah, it's
Actually, you can draw on it, I believe. It's a
yeah,
drawing.
Fiona, actually, if you put that up, I'm not sure I have that recent drawing. I was just wondering if I could take control of this screen. That isn't mine.
So you're talking about this area here, right?
The L, Paul, you're referencing?
Correct. Yep. So that was a new sheet pile wall. So what was done was using a sea level rise study with some common projections and sort of the limit because of Parker Avenue on the height that you could get without shedding water onto abutting properties. An elevation was picked, I believe here. It's been some time. I'm sorry. I believe it was 12.5 feet. Nav the 88 was the sort of the highest that could be achieved. To do that, new sheet pile wall was driven to support that. So this was part of the previously permitted project. Some new parking spaces. The elevation of the gangway landing was also raised as a resiliency effort. And the parking lot was essentially flattened out. This parking lot historically sits over Old Marsh and Peat. So it's anticipated that gravel will need to be added over the decades to come to maintain this elevation. At some point, so at Parker Avenue, it meets grade and it ties in nicely. There's an area down where the sheet pile, that's someone that, circled here in orange. The sheet pile wall needs to stop at some point to not start impacting the abutting properties or the marsh. And so what you have is a change in grade that the parking lot was always shedding water during rain events in that direction. But as part of this project and as part of his proposals to get the project through the permitting process and to address environmental concerns, a rain garden was proposed there. And it turns out that at high tides, even at so it ironically, about a month after this project was completed, we had those very severe high tides over the winter, and it flooded anyway. So, the limitations of Parker Avenue and the elevations of the entire surrounding area, you're never going to get up above those high tides each winter, but essentially they've been experiencing some high tides that do not flood out properly. They sit essentially in that rain garden that was created, that had the intent of catching rainwater that was already being shedded onto the marsh prior to the project, but just as an additional mitigating measure that was asked to be put there essentially by the permitting agencies. That wasn't it wasn't a full design. It was something that was asked to be incorporated in. What has happened is with those high tides, the water ponds, it's attracted a lot of mosquitoes. And it's something that the neighbors would like us to address as well as the owner.
Yeah, there's a letter from one of your neighbors. Go
Oh,
ahead, sorry,
sorry.
Charlotte.
I was gonna say, I have a photo from when Paul and I went out there actually it was back in January. But it picture might be a good visual too, if you guys want me to pull that up.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Before you do, you please zoom in on this. I can't read the contours there, particularly right there. Yeah, keep going. What is that contour line there? Does that say 14 feet? I can't really.
Got 11s mostly in
Right,
there.
right here? What
Yeah,
is that contour line? That's 11?
That's 11, yep.
Okay. So, and here you have it, you're at 12. Is that right? Or is that what you're proposing, that you raise this, you're 11 here, you're 11 there. Can you see the crayon I'm using?
Yes, I do see that, yep.
Okay, so, here you're at 12 feet. So this would appear to be a high area here. And I don't see how this,
You know, that 12 may have been a typo. Because I believe either side of this swell was intended to be 11, and then it went down to 10.75 and then 10.5. I believe that 12 is actually a typo there.
okay, so I guess the question is, what is the entry point for the tidal water?
The tidal water essentially comes up by this salt marsh. So top right of your screen where it says proposed swell, and see notes where that is. So that whole area becomes submerged. The existing grade there is essentially the 10.5 that you see, more or less. And so as the tide comes up, tide gets to about 11.5 or 12 on a fairly regular basis. And so it never really comes fully into the parking lot, but it does fill most of this backland area and under the building, which was the case prior to the project. So this entire area is subject to kind of localized flooding at fairly routine king tides. And prior to the project, the existing grade was such that it just went right back out. Whereas the rain garden that was installed as part of what was supposed to be mitigation ends up actually ponding and disrupting the what was the normal equilibrium prior to the project.
So,
Has
so
it
what's
been
the
considered that the
elevation?
rain garden wasn't properly installed or maintained?
We did do an as-built, and it was installed with the elevations that were on the plans. I think the elevations on the plans were perhaps too deep, in all honesty.
Has it been maintained with salt tolerant plantings to help control, to do what it's supposed to do?
So there were plantings, there were the proposed mulch on top to try to keep the seeds down, and that all sort of floated away. So again, subject to kind of this tidal area, again, both prior to the project and now after. So this proposed swale is at a higher elevation so that it's not incurring as frequent of that higher tides. I believe it was a 10.5 or a 10.2 was the bottom elevation of the initial rain garden, whereas now that's been brought up to 11, an additional 8 or so inches, and to try to keep it dry for a larger portion of the tide cycle. And again, it's really trying to it's a balance between not being able to raise any of this with fill is not an option this close to the marsh and the Phragmites to the south. That would just shed water on it. It just pushes the problem. I mean, you could fill all the way to the highway and still have an issue. So it's a balance between how much you could fill and how much you need to just allow the water to come and go as it did. Is I guess the balance we're trying to strike here.
What's the elevation of the sheet pile cap?
It's at 12.5 feet.
All the way around, right?
All the way around, yeah. It's fairly level at 12.5.
So what's the elevation at Parker Ave where the entrance to this is?
It's about 12, I believe, from memory.
Okay.
12.5, 13. Looks like we're up at.
It looks like I hate to say it, but it looked like this was a very ill-conceived project. How do you keep the tide out if you leave an opening at the corner of the I mean, you put all the sheet pile in at 12 feet or 12.5 feet, and you leave an opening that's below the so-called high tide level.
Yeah,
Who
so
created the opening, right?
High tide is well documented here.
yeah, that's correct. So you also have the boat ramp, which at the top of the boat ramp is below that 13 feet. So the intent of this is it's not a dam, it's not a structure to keep water out. It's to hold back the increased elevation of fill that was put in. So previously the elevation of the parking lot was 10 feet.
Yeah.
But I mean you'd have to do a New Bedford scale flood, gates to keep it all out. So the intent was never to completely block off the entrance of tide. So I guess, yeah, that would be, over by the boat ramp. I think you're at about 12 at the boat ramp opening. So you've got a few openings all along there that are going to be allowing that high tide in. And I think Parker Avenue still floods as well.
For those with good intentions, as you said, the creation of the rain gardens increase the tide's access to the site and to the neighbor's site. Is that?
It's allowing the water to stay. So essentially
Yeah.
the hole was dug where it's allowing that water to stay rather than come in and then retreat as it did before.
And that's creating sort of mosquito and, yep.
Well, I don't imagine you have too much mosquito breeding in January.
Not in January.
Uh,
There's a neighbor. There's a neighbor a letter from the neighbor which talks about some of those issues.
Correct. Yeah, we were going down routes of trying to address this as well. And then the letters from the neighbors are also, the owner wants to keep them happy and also, gain some use. It's obviously not ideal to have this water ponding up. It stays under his shed. It's not ideal and it wasn't the intent of the project.
It's not.
So the flooding here has gotten worse, not better. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so correct, yes. And essentially the 100-year storm that this was designed for happened twice this past winter. So I know you used that boat ramp down there, you were familiar, but I believe 2 times this past winter we essentially had the 100-year tidal elevation. So it's designed again as practicably as it could be, maintaining proper 1% grades as required to not shed water onto Parker Street or onto abutters, but being limited by that Parker Street elevation, bringing everything up as high as possible, held behind the sheet pile wall, limited by not being able to enclose obviously the entire neighborhood with sheet pile, leaving that open intentionally as the shed point, but the rain garden itself not allowing the shedding and allowing too much ponding. So it's really just a slight alteration to what was the rain garden to allow for some more shedding of water, tidal water.
So it's not clear to me. Are you proposing to fill in the rain garden?
It would be regrading. There seems to be I don't think at this time he needs to bring more material in. I believe it's regrading of the existing material that's there, kind of flattening it out and regrading.
So do you have a drawing that shows that shows this?
I don't believe we have a section prepared that shows that. Fiona, did we prepare a cross section of this?
No, not that I have, no.
It's a little hard to, at least for me, to understand quite what's being proposed. I mean, yes, you're going to regrade it, but without a cross section, without, I mean, the contours here, you have a lot of spot elevations, but it's, and we're talking about tenths to hundredths of a foot here. And so the contour intervals, if I could read them, seem inconsistent with your spot elevations.
Right. So the spot elevations are existing, and this shaded area would be proposed. And my apologies with that. That 12 should be an 11.
So
you're talking about a swale here, which means it's lower than everything around it.
That's correct, yep.
Okay. So what's the depth of this swale? It says 10.75. Is that the, but it looks like there's an 11-foot contour right through the middle of the swale.
Yep, so at the very top, it starts at 11, and as the center of the swale moves down to 10.75 and then 10.5, very, very gradual. So it's,
Okay.
for drainage purposes, it essentially will infiltrate. So during storm events, if we didn't have the tide to consider, which we just do here, but at a low tide event, it would act as a rain garden. It is a grade such that the amount of runoff from the storm calculation would have, it would go down and penetrate before it went out towards the marsh.
Okay,
But it's
already-
such that you at least won't have ponding due to tidal. So it sort of tries to balance those two forces.
But you've already said your rain garden basically floated away, the mulch and the seeds and all that. So there's no rain garden there. How are you going to address that?
They propose to continue to seed and hope that it takes. Previously there was some grass that was holding there. Not much, but the owner is going to have to stay diligent and try to make this take. We propose mixing seed prior, not just seeding the top, mixing it in prior and doing a top layer of about 3 inches. So he's working with some folks that specialize more in that to try to get this to take the best he can.
I remember reviewing this, but I don't recall exactly what was going to go in the rain garden. Are you guys planting Spartina here?
We chose, it was a mix.
trying to
It
grow?
was a mix that Charlotte actually had suggested back during the initial project. It was a New England mix, but definitely open to suggestions for sure.
Well,
There's a coastal mix. I'd have to check the original plans. But let me try to pull up the original plans and see what's
If I
specified.
recall, Charlotte and I did have a back and forth on what we selected there.
Well, obviously anything that's a freshwater species is not going to survive high tide.
I mean, looking at the species that are existing, the native ones, I know there's an assortment of native plants there as well as Phragmites, but that might be a good indicator. But is the swale that's proposed going to cut into what is I'm looking at now into the marsh that's there? Or is it working in the
No,
what's
so
this line?
Yeah, so it may be a little misleading there. We would not propose. It's going to ties into existing grade. So the existing grades out there are such that it matches. So we would just be tying into existing grade.
So does that mean?
A lot of this is not really clear from your plans, and I for one would like to see a plan that was coherent, with no typos, with a contour interval that's appropriate here. I mean, we're talking about changes of the range of elevations here is 2.5 feet or so, and you've got a 1-foot contour. That just doesn't seem right to me. I would think that you probably need more spot elevations out here. You probably need a better contour map, at least to illustrate it to us.
Mhm.
It's not entirely clear what you're proposing here.
And to that end, I would actually, I mean, given the fact that we've sort of exacerbated the condition by the rain garden, and the rain garden sort of washed away, and the plan is just to continue dumping grass seed on it and hope it sticks after. I think maybe you might benefit from a second set of engineering eyes and maybe have a peer review so that we can prevent the condition from getting worse when we dig this hole even deeper. And I don't know if maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I think that's kind of what it sounds like to me. And so that would be my suggestion. Of course, let the rest of the board weigh in, but instead of sort of belaboring it, I just think that might help, and it might appease the neighbors too. It's sort of a tight area, and we definitely have some concerns for neighbors, and read some letters. So I would think a peer review to, maybe get an engineering consensus on how to solve this problem, if it's solvable at all, might be of value. But I would like to hear what the rest of the board thinks as well.
I'd agree with that, and I I really object to the use of "we hope." Hope it's not a plan. We need to see a solid plan, and we need to see some confidence that that plan can be executed. And right now, after seeing what's been done, I don't have a lot of confidence in going forward here.
That's understood. We do have a subcontract, a subconsultant that we've spoken to on this. They took a look at the initial proposed plans. Essentially, and we can revisit with them and to present something, at least some alternatives for you to consider to show we've looked at them. Essentially, the feedback is such that this area probably should not have been touched, that the rain garden should have been left to its initial condition with stopping the project at the sheet pile wall, so that the original ebb and flow condition could have stayed. We can't move back, so we need to now try to correct that. The rain garden itself was actually forced upon the owner from regulators with some pushback. It's something that they needed to see to push the project forward, and so we designed the best we could to do that. We have a sub-consultant, LEC, that specializes in plantings and marsh restoration and that sort of thing. So we can definitely circle back with them. This was through just some discussions with them, a way to essentially try to restore it back to as close to the original condition as we could, because that's how it was ebbing and flowing naturally. To get something to take root is something we will need to get their best opinion on. Obviously, we'll just have to propose the best way to do it.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner Bell, please.
Were we informed of the dissenting opinion from your subcontractor?
So that wasn't a subconsult. This is while we're trying to formulate the solution here. This wasn't a subconsultant that was doing the design work with us.
So
this was
you had some somehow or other somebody involved in this was a dissenting voice, and did you ignore that?
So I'd have to check back. This is going back before my time here, so I could check back in those records. Picking this project up now and trying to correct this situation is where I've been brought in. So I could definitely check in on that for you and bring it, to the next meeting.
Okay, so ordinarily a peer review is not done by you or your subcontractors. It would be an outside consultant that the town would select and the applicant would pay for. And that's what we're referring to. There's a conflict of interest, obviously, in a peer review if they are working for you or working for the.
Yeah, that's understood. Yeah.
Working for the applicant. So I would be strongly in favor of fresh eyes examining this. Not with,
I think so too.
Not with the intent of identifying what went wrong, but how to fix it.
Yeah,
just
understood.
working with you, we're working to come up with a solution. I think, having another set of eyes, and I think that comes naturally in the form of a peer review.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah, Charlotte, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. I was just gonna quickly recap. So I guess Paul and Fiona, it sounds like the commission's looking for a peer review of this proposed design, and it would be from one of the town's engineering companies. So I'm happy to, what I normally do is I reach out to them, I get quotes, relay that to the applicant. The applicant will, we will ultimately decide, the town will ultimately decide, but basically the applicant would pay for it, and then you initiate the peer review, and then the engineer would just be looking at, obviously the approved and proposed amended plans, and then provide, design recommendations or anything like that. And are you guys okay with that setting? So just looking at the design and how to fix it, just getting a, second pair of eyes on the actual design?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to call, like, have a third party peer review to come up, participate in the proposed solution more than just sort of reviewing this exact
Yeah.
design, right?
Do you want
I
them to
don't know.
visit the site too?
I mean, I would think so. I'm not trying to drive up, extreme costs for the developer here, but at the same time, I do think a third party would be valuable. So I'd sort of defer to those with more experience here. But yeah, it seems like visiting the site would be part of that to me.
I think that would be helpful. Charlotte and I
Okay.
have spent some time down here at High
Okay.
Tides. I think it's helpful.
All right,
to
so
see
Paul
what
and
your
Fiona,
applicants-
we'll talk offline about this, and obviously, please run this through the applicant, but basically, the commission wants a peer review. We will choose a peer reviewer from one of our town engineering companies that normally do peer reviews. The applicant will pay for the peer review, and then once that's done, we'll initiate it, and then we'll just prepare as soon as we can, either for the next meeting or the meeting after that. Sometimes this might take a while, so I don't know if we can be done by the 19th, but would you guys be comfortable for now with voting on a peer review and a continuance to October 3rd? That's our meeting after September 19th, just to kind of make sure we have all our ducks in a row. That would give us time to set up a site visit.
And just out of curiosity, Charlotte, so since the current order of conditions expires at the end of October,
Yes.
so should we, how logistically would that work for?
Oh, yeah. So that's a definitely a separate request. So the commission tonight can decide whether or not they want to wait for the peer review or if they want to vote on the extension. Either way, I think there's definitely sufficient time to do either. I think as long as an extension is granted before the expiration date, you're good to go. So
Well,
I'll
we
defer
could
to the
grant
commission
a
on
much
that.
shorter extension to give the peer reviewer time to chime in and then revisit the idea of a 3-year extension. So we could grant one sort of till the end of November or December or something, and then give the peer reviewer the opportunity to chime in and then come back.
I think during the dry season, I think we should try to get this done quickly. And I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I would assume they want to do that too. So I would definitely try to get a peer review done in the next couple weeks, have them come back October 3rd. That's still 25 days before their permit expires. And then October 3rd, you can vote on the design and the extension.
Okay.
But it
That
sounds
works.
like, yeah, maybe best to hold off for now until we get a second pair of eyes on the design, and then the commission can decide how much longer the permit would be extended for.
Ms. Vardy, Mr. Marsala, does that sound okay? And will we be able to go back to the owner with the proposal?
Yeah, I'll update the owner for sure. And then Charlotte, if you forward contacts, or if you said you reach out directly.
Yeah, so I'll
them,
reach out to them. I'll get like proposals and we'll talk about it. The town will ultimately decide, but like I said, I'm flexible. So, but yeah, I will get those to you.
So do any other commissioners, Commissioner Magnell, any of the other commissioners, Commissioner Berrigan, Commissioner McIntyre, are there any other thoughts that you'd like before maybe we entertain a motion to have a peer reviewer take a look at this?
I just have a question on the heights that have been recorded there. Are those actual measurements? Because
Yeah, that's correct. Each X that you see that are in kind of the light gray. So except for the ones within the gray hatch area, those are proposed. But every other X you see on the screen is an actual RTK GPS shot.
I see. So the measurements do not match what was proposed and supposedly built. There's nothing there that's down to the 9.5 feet that was supposed to be the bottom of the rain garden.
Not anymore. No, because of the tidal in and out, it's kept collapsing that rain garden on us, which is why we need to propose a different solution here. It was at one point. We did have as-built immediately following construction that showed the rain garden was built. And then this has been updated with more survey and more GPS as a way to try to get our heads around the solution. And it just keeps the tidal in and out is too frequent. And the soil is such that it just wasn't holding its shape.
So what you actually are showing is that it's returning to its original condition.
It's returning it to essentially what's more or less being proposed here. Definitely happy to, this has been a tricky one, so definitely welcome some other ideas coming in.
Just run the elementary school out there and show them the power of Mother Nature.
It's going back to, right? It is, yeah. It seems to be returning back over time, but we wanted at least, you know, an amended order here so that we could handle it with some thought. So some recommendations would be helpful.
Commissioner Berrigan, Commissioner McIntyre, anything further?
Nope, I'm all set. Thank you.
Chris?
No, I have nothing further. Thanks.
So I don't know what exactly a motion for a peer reviewer should look like. I don't know if you have any suggested language. Otherwise, you know, we make a motion to authorize Charlotte to engage with the applicant to you know, retain and pay for a peer reviewer to review and of the proposed design and any potential solutions to the flooding and the ponding that's occurring, and then report back to us on the first October meeting. I'd make that motion if that's appropriate.
Works for me.
Yeah,
Any second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, let's quick roll call vote. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Bagnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
and Valerio Romano, aye. Thank you very much to, you know, to the engineers at Foth. So I guess we'll continue this to the first hearing in October, and please work with Charlotte, see if we can get a solution that'll make the neighbors happy and keep this moving forward.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and for the record, that would be October 3rd. So I'll work with you guys over the next few weeks to get that taken care of, and we'll come back on October 3rd.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank
Alright.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Great, so now we have an enforcement order for filled wetlands at 34 Flint Rock Ridge, which is continued from August 22nd. I know this has been sort of a recurring issue that the commission has considered multiple times. And so Charlotte, I guess I'll let you get us up to speed unless we've actually gotten have the owner or the contractor available to also chime in.
I'll be quick. Long story short, I don't have anything yet, but the owner has reached out to Brad Holmes. I did talk to Brad today. He is working with the owner to kind of establish, you know, the parameters. We both agreed that a site visit with myself, with Brad, with whoever is going to be doing the work is appropriate. We want to do it now while the season is dry and before everything gets wet again. So we definitely want to start taking care of this, like obviously now. It would be great if we can get a plan and get plantings in. So Brad said that he will reach out to the owner again to kind of verify, you know, the costs and the time. I'm hoping to have something to you guys by the next meeting, and if not, it'll definitely be by October. But we definitely are both stressing that we want this now while the, you know, weather is nice and dry. So, you know, at least for me, and I'll defer to you guys, I am seeing communication from the owner. So unlike the contractor who just bailed, we never heard from him again. Like, you know, I do have her email. I do have her phone number. She did reach out to Brad, you know, like I asked her to, unless she wanted to go with another wetlands guy, but she was fine with him. So, you know, I am seeing a willingness to comply. So I am happy to wait if you guys are happy to wait, but with the caveat that it would be nice if we can get something this fall, maybe even try to get a little bit of work done before the spring and before the, you know, winter comes in with the wet seasons.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the homeowner was sort of, you know, unfortunately, you know, the contractor sort of bailed out and left the homeowner in the lurch. And if they're communicating with you, I don't see any reason to be, you know, play too hard as long as they continue communicating. So if there's a report back. The issue is, has the fill been taken out and now we're looking for some mitigation plannings, or is there still a bunch of,
Yeah, only a portion of the fill has been removed. I would say maybe like eyeballing it from the site, I would say maybe anywhere between half and 2/3. the excavator was trying to get, like, the contractor did try to work to get a lot of the fill out, but the problem is we got these massive rainstorms in March and April, and the entire
It was a
ground was
swamp.
like, it was like a water bed.
So
So,
what is the fill? Is it something that when it gets wet, it washes, you know, some hazardous material?
there
into
was
the
just
land?
there was just so much rainfall. Like, it was definitely more than like 2 inches in 24 hours, and we had multiple of those storms within the time frame that we were trying to remove the fill. And like, we were sinking in 2 feet of mud at the site. But after that, like May after that, I never heard from the guy again. So he definitely tried to scrape out, I would say maybe about half of it.
What is it? What is the
It
fill
was
again?
dirt. It was like,
This
you know,
is
he
dirt,
brought
yeah.
in dump trucks of dirt to do that whole area and create more grassed patio area. But it was in a wetland. So he did
Yeah,
remove,
it
I
was
would say,
just
about
dirt.
half of it.
Some sort of unknown dirt, so it could become, you know, sort of nasty.
I have
Yeah,
no
okay.
idea where the dirt even came from. And there were a lot of landscaping changes that were made to the back of that site. Like, he created like a fake beach and a stone wall, and that stone wall might partially have been in the wetland. It was honestly a mess. You know, and my priority is definitely the wetland. So before we, you know, get really nitpicky with the landscaping stuff, I'm more concerned about the wetlands. So he had to stop with the excavator because the ground got so mushy. You know, the groundwater was up to the surface level. There was nowhere for the water to percolate, and then it was just a muddy mess. He did try to remove as much as he could at the time, but then he just stopped after May, and I never heard from him again. So, but yeah, so fill definitely will need to still be removed, and they probably will need an excavator. I don't think they can just remove the remainder of it with a shovel, but it'll probably be easier to do it now that the ground is more stable, water tables are lower. But yeah, there's definitely still fill in there. So,
So for me, like I said, I don't think we should be too hard on the property owner, given that they were sort of, you know, they had a problem with their contractor. So I'm willing to let Charlotte continue to work with them as long as, you know, we have some date certain to your recommendation where things move along. I don't know what do the other commissioners think. Commissioner Bell, do you have any other further thoughts on how to proceed?
No, I think that's the way to go.
Commissioner Berrigan?
I agree. Way to go.
Commissioner McNeil?
I agree as well.
Commissioner McIntyre?
Yeah, I agree. Give her some time and sorry, I was looking at the map. I don't, yeah, I mean, there's to a certain degree, you're responsible for who you hire as well.
Yeah.
So I will say that, but I agree. Yes.
yeah, I mean, at least with me, I mean, I would definitely let you guys know if I feel like I'm getting ghosted. Like, I'm happy to be mean when the time comes, so don't worry about that. But I think for now, as long as someone's willing to comply, I'm happy to work with them. She's already contacted Brad Holmes, who's, you know, we trust his professional opinion for the most part. So Brad will need to go to the site, though. Neither Brad nor myself have seen the site since late May. So we will need to see what it looks like. It's probably an overgrown mess right now, but it will all definitely the fill will have to be removed either way, down to the parent material, and then you know, bring it back in with the vegetated plants. And so.
Should we revisit this for a further plan on the 19th or go to October 3rd or?
I can keep putting it on the agenda if you guys are comfortable with that, because unfortunately I don't have a timeline yet. I'll be realistic. I don't think I'll probably be ready for the 19th, but if in case I am, I'd rather just continue it to the 19th for now. And if not, I can put it on the 3rd.
All right, let's just keep doing that. Well, let's just be really brief about it then, since we don't, you know, we're going to leave it to you to continue working. I'm happy that, you know, Brad Holmes has been contacted, so there's some forward momentum. So with that, do we need to take a vote to continue it? No. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on this from any of the commissioners?
No.
Great.
Okay.
So, so the last thing we have on the agenda for the, you know, for the public were these interesting two potential COCs from two projects from the 80s. Then 1984 NOI and then a 1987 NOI at 59 Joy Place. There's two DEP file numbers. And so I guess there's not really a lot we can do here. Charlotte, do you want to chime in? But I mean, it seems like we should just Yeah,
Yeah, and I have Frank near here, I believe, who's representing the Frank, are you here for the seller? You're muted, Frank. That's okay. Well, he's here for questions. So yeah, this was it's another housing sale one. You know, these two permits from the 80s came up. One was for a dock, one was for a retaining wall. I actually did go out to the site to look at it. It's a, you know, a property that, you know, it's kind of just hasn't really been maintained. So the dock hasn't really changed since for a long time from what it looks like. So I'm just going to pull up my site photos so you guys can see that. So this is the house. The retaining wall is around here. So from what I can see, to be plain and simple, the retaining wall was built per plan. I didn't really see any deviations from the original design, and it wraps around, you know, the property that comes up. This is Little Harbor here. So it just wraps around. This is the dock. You can see that there's like a gangway that's being stored here. That was one of the conditions, that the gangway and the float had to be stored, not in the marsh and upland area. So it looks like it's been sitting like this for a long time, just based off of the age of the structure. So yeah, in terms of the wall, no concerns about that. I believe that was the hold on, I'm gonna get them mixed up, but I think that was the 1984 order of conditions was the retaining wall. And then the 1987 order of conditions was the dock. And so at least with the dock, I don't see, it looks like it was built per plan. It only had a couple sets of pilings. I obviously couldn't get out here to measure the height because I'm slowly walking sites now, so I didn't get down here because there's a small ledge, but at least in terms of the design, just eyeballing it, it looks like it's fine. The one thing I will note, and I'm happy to talk to the owner and maybe we can just write a letter about this, but the float has been stored in the marsh. It has definitely been there for a very long time. So like, I think this is just something to note moving forward, that it cannot be left here and has to be removed. Yeah, so that's really the only, you know, deviation to the conditions was that, you know, the float is found in the marsh. We have a rule against that in our regulations. So I think it's just a matter of talking to the current owner and the future owner that this can't be here anymore. So I'm happy to work with either party, all parties, whatever's feasible. But in terms of the COCs, the work seems to be compliant. You guys bear with me for like 10 seconds. I just have to grab my clipboard to see what ongoing conditions I would suggest. But yeah, this is really the only thing that I found on the site that was, you know, a deviation. Frank, you're no longer muted.
Oh, okay, good. Thanks. Yeah,
Frank,
I just wanted
Frank,
to.
I think you have 2 devices on or something because you're getting a nasty echo.
Okay.
You had a computer or phone or both or something next to each other.
No.
Yeah, that resolved it.
Okay. Yeah, so I was told that you might be coming out to the site, and I believe that nothing has been changed since back in the 80s. And I do see that that the platform is in a location where I'm not sure it's supposed to be. So I'm sure that I'll be happy to work out whatever is needed.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Frank. I'm happy to work with anybody, either the current or the potential future owner. You know, I think moving forward, this definitely can't be here, and I'm happy to find a solution and timing as to when this can be, you know, taken off the grass. But it's definitely, from what it looks like, it's been sitting here a really long time, so.
Yeah, and we don't need to withhold the COCs for the float, because, you know, if it's not moved, we have other remedies that we can employ to get it moved.
Yeah.
So,
I would
yeah.
also recommend, so for specifically for the 1987 COC, I would recommend its special conditions 16 and 17. It's in relation to the winter storage of the float will be on upland area on the other side of the retaining wall, and that no part of the float or ramp will be stored on any part of the marsh that could damage the grass. So I would just, if you entertain a COC, I would recommend we do conditions 16 and 17 for the 1987 COC. Just so that that's understood that, you know, it's an ongoing part of the property.
Well, they can't drag it across the marsh either to get it above the
Correct.
wall.
That's in our regulations, so they can't do
Yeah.
that either. We'll have to figure out a solution of how to get this off.
Okay.
Right now,
and
it looks
then-
like it's so close that I wouldn't mind authorizing a variance to drag it over the wall right now, you know, but
But there is a little bit of a height, so you can't just drag it over. It's probably like, I would say a couple feet high, so you can't do that, sadly.
okay.
Happy to explore all possibilities.
Okay.
Is it still functional? I mean, it looks like it's good, but it looks like it's been sitting there for years.
40
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it's been sitting there a long time.
I mean, if it's trash, then it could just probably be,
Broken up.
yeah, taken out in pieces.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
may
you
want
could do that too.
Anyway,
Anyways, yeah. Can work with it, Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm happy to do any and all the above, whatever works for people. I think as long as it gets off the grass, either
I'm fine with
now.
those conditions. And how about the other one, Charlotte?
And for the wall, most of the special conditions, I'm just reading through them quickly, were about, you know, during construction. So I don't think, actually 18, present wall will be maintained as close as possible to its present configuration and will not extend into wetlands or marsh further than it is done at present time. So condition 18 about just maintaining the wall and obviously not pushing it closer into the marsh or anything like that. So I would recommend for the 1984 order of conditions, I would do special condition 18. And then for the 1987 COC, I would do special conditions 16 and 17 about the float and gangway storage.
I have no problem with that. Commissioner Bell, do you have any other thoughts on this?
No, I think that's appropriate.
Commissioner Berrigan?
No, nothing else.
Commissioner Magnell?
No, it seems like it's pretty straightforward.
Commissioner McIntyre?
No.
All right, so with that, I guess I would entertain a motion to issue the certificates of compliance.
With special condition 18 for the 1984 COC and for 16 and 17 for the 1987 COC.
Yes,
Okay.
so moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Let's do a quick roll call. Commissioner Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Commissioner Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Commissioner Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre,
Mario Romano, aye. So with that, they're issued with those conditions, and I hope the property owner, at least now, or maybe the future property owner, can work with our agent to make sure that float is moved off the marsh in a safe manner.
Great, I'll make sure of that.
Sounds good, Frank.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
will
Dean.
probably be able to issue those COCs on Monday if you're good with that. I have an all-day site visit tomorrow, so Monday, definitely.
That sounds great. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
good luck with the sale.
All right.
Thank you,
thanks.
guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So that's it for, you know, the public facing agenda. I guess next, let's see what we have. Just updates, construction updates. Charlotte?
Oh yeah, sorry, updates. So 68 Whitehead, this was new home construction. The lot was split and it was a new home. There was some accidental disturbance of the 50-foot buffer and the work was originally not supposed to be in the 50-foot buffer. So they have to, if they haven't already, they have to relocate a spa that was approved to go in the back of the house in the 100 and it encroached on the 50. They have to push back, potentially, I think, a little bit of the wall. 1 or 2 trees may have been removed in that process. So if that's the case, we wanted 3-to-1 replacement because it was in the 50. So I am visiting the site on Monday. And I will definitely let you guys know what I see out there. But yeah, as we previously discussed, I have no idea when the erosion control barrier was moved. And whenever it was moved, that's probably when people started doing stuff because, you know, people see that barrier and they just think they can work up to that barrier. So yeah, so I will definitely see what the site looks like on Monday before they file a COC, and I'll go over anything that needs to happen. But if any trees were removed, and I definitely anticipate at least 1, we wanted 3-to-1 replacement. And then the work moved out of the 50-foot buffer. 81 Doan Street, they are done with the project. They needed some extra time to finish the plantings, but they have finished the plantings. We can definitely discuss that more as part of the COC, but I'm going to go out to the site at some point and move forward the COC request. They just have to update the as-built. And then 83 Spring Street, I am going to the site next week, I think on Tuesday. There were previous concerns from abutters and neighbors about the applicant putting some gravel in some ditches along the existing driveway. And for reference, the driveway it was existing since the 60s before the Wetlands Protection Act. It's on either side of a wetland, so it was definitely built through a wetland, you know, that many years ago. But our permit, the one that we currently issued last year, had no modifications to the driveway. The only thing I had discussed with the applicant was, given the safety of construction access, you may need to fill in some of the divots, but he was not supposed to change the grade, expand the footprint in any way. So I'm going out there to verify if he has modified the footprint anyway. He's claiming he definitely didn't. And he was only following our instructions about making the access a little bit safer for construction vehicles. Because the problem with this driveway is there's 2 poorly designed culverts that go underneath this unstable gravel driveway. So once you start getting excavators, you know, coming in and out of the site, you know, we definitely need to be monitoring the site through the entirety of the project. If there's any damage to the wetlands, it will need to be repaired. That is a special condition in our template. So as nervous as I am for this project to start, if anything does happen, he has to fix it. He has to repair it. If the culverts crack, break, they have to be replaced. It might need to be done through an emergency certification. I'm thinking like worst case scenario, but at least for now, I'll go to the site. I'll see if he expanded the driveway in any way. But I think, Tom, did you have any concerns about any expansion potential? I think you weren't concerned, but just want to verify.
Well, I did measure that it was wider than 12 feet in a number of places, but I don't,
Yeah.
I didn't have the original measurements.
Yeah,
So I don't know whether it's expanded or not. It
yeah.
looks like it could have, but maybe not. So
The problem is I don't think the driveway was 12 feet wide consistently
no,
from start to finish. I think Morse just estimated that on their plans.
yeah, right.
So I'll have to look at my previous site photos. I'll try my best, but if I don't see anything obvious, I'm just gonna press forward. But I do really think his barriers need to be fixed, and he's giving me a little bit of a fight about that. And I'm like, no, you really need to fix these before you start construction. They've been sitting there for quite some time. So whether he has to double up, replace them, remove them, I don't care. I think they have to be plumped up at the very least because they've been sitting there a while. And then the other update, as you guys may have noticed, I'm slowly starting to do site visits again. I'm starting with COCs because I have quite a backlog. I actually have a little list right here. I have about a dozen of them. Some of them are, you know, things we've administratively we're waiting on. Other stuff is a lot of stuff that's just been sitting for a couple months. So I'm going to be going to easy sites. I don't think I can be walking active construction sites right now. I don't want to undo the months of recovery. But, you know, just so you guys know, I have every applicant sign the permission to access site form. So if you guys want to be like, you know, Tom and Kathy and keep doing any site walks, you guys are definitely welcome to. If you have any questions, you're welcome to give me a call. I can probably do like regular meetings. I can do new site inspections, so I can hopefully get pictures for you guys for projects moving forward. It's just the active construction sites I'm going to have to hold off on at least for a few months. But if there's ever any concerns, I've been asking John Hallen to go to the site for me. And obviously, if you guys, I don't want to put you guys in harm's way with construction sites, but if anyone's feeling ambitious, you are welcome to with the right safety precautions. Just make sure, you know, you identify yourself as a commissioner and just say you're here in my stead, but I don't think it should come to that. I think John's been doing a good job with going to sites when I ask him to.
That's good.
So, yep, starting next week, I'm going to be in the office a few days a week.
Great.
We'll
Welcome
just
back.
increase it from there.
Take
But
it easy.
I do want to keep one remote day. I haven't decided what day, but I get so much done working remotely when nobody's bothering me. So I want to keep at least one day remote. And, you know, I talked about it with John and he's fine with it. Doesn't seem like he really has a preference. So.
Good.
Yeah. Welcome back to office life.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of that, I will also be setting up office hours. I think I mentioned that to you guys, but you know, luckily it hasn't been that bad now because it's dry season, but in this come springtime when I'm, you know, getting 100 calls a day about my property's flooding, I will be setting up office hours, maybe starting in October or November, just to kind of help channel, you know, when people come into my office a little bit better, because, you know, when people come in and take up an hour of my time and, you know, it's a lot. So we need to have some boundaries. Healthy
idea.
boundaries. Anyway, that's it. There was a 48-hour issue, and I don't know if it is an issue, but Valerio and Chris, remember the Joy Place property that they're remodeling? It was a building permit that John said we didn't need a permit for, because what they were doing is they're remodeling the house and then they're filling in the basement, but they're working within the existing footprint. John had them put down an erosion control. So technically work like that within an existing footprint is outside of our jurisdiction. However, the temporary impact from construction is where I had more concerns. Like I looked at the plans, the work was fine. I don't know if anybody wants to drive by to the site, but I stopped by it obviously on my way to 59 Joy Place. And it was kind of just like, I mean, I didn't really get alarm bells, but it was kind of just like, I mean, the permit's already been issued. What can I do about it? I mean, you know, so I'm not concerned if you guys aren't concerned, but I did ask about the garage. John is going to clarify with the applicant whether they're going to raise and rebuild it, because the garage is partially in the 50. So if they're going to tear down the whole thing, I will stand firm and say they need a permit, at least to temporarily disturb the 50-foot buffer, because that's really strict with our regulations. It was just with the remodeling of the house, it was like, all right. But, you know, I mean, it's an active construction site right now, so I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about it, or one way or another, if you guys want to look at it and let me know what you think. But at least for now, I guess with the house, I don't know how much there is I can do because the building permit's already issued. But with the garage, I'll definitely clarify.
What's the address, Charlotte, on that?
I think it's 45 Joy Place. Yeah, you'll see it when you go down Joy Place. Like it's the house that's all up and, you know, it's actively being worked on. But I don't know. They're working within the existing footprint. It was really more the temporary disturbance from construction, but at least it's in the 100. So I don't know. Part of it actually is outside of the 100. So like the furthest part closer to the cemetery is outside of the 100.
Okay.
Based on plans. So yeah, just let me know if you guys see anything concerning, but at least for now, there's a barrier up. But if they're working on the garage and they're going to tear it down, I'm going to tell them to submit at least an RDA if they're working within the existing footprint. If they're changing the footprint in any way, I'm going to tell them to submit an NOI. So, all right, that was it for 48 hours. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I think we should experiment a little bit with the presentation here. Charlotte, would you open your screen again? When you were showing the pictures, it looked as if you hadn't maximized your browser. So
just like anything, do you want me to just pull up anything? Like
that doesn't matter.
Okay.
Let's see if we can improve on this. Yeah.
How's that?
So you're not maximized. Oh, you are maximized.
Yep.
I don't understand why it's changed.
Does someone want to send me a picture? Because at least for me, I'm seeing my whole screen.
Well, I can say, yeah, I can see your
I'll send
screen too, but it doesn't fill my screen like it used to.
Okay.
What it used to do, as recently, I believe is the last meeting and the meeting before, it would fill my screen and then
Mhm.
our images, you know, our peanut gallery would be reduced to about a quarter the size it is now. And we'd
You
all be,
guys can't see like this, I pulled up a site plan. You guys can't see like this zoomed in like site plan? Or is it really small to you guys?
no, let me
Yeah.
let me describe this, Charlotte.
Okay,
The top quarter of my screen is black. The bottom quarter of my screen is black.
that's weird.
The our gallery is now very large, relatively large. Didn't change in shape or size, and it used to when you opened a screen, it used to get shifted all the way to the right, and they were more like thumbnails than full full size, and so therefore the plans filled up the whole screen.
Okay.
Now I'm seeing something like, I guess, no more than 40% of my screen is taken up by the shared screen display.
Yeah, can you guys take like
Charlotte,
a screenshot?
if you'd like to give me control, yeah, I'll share my screenshot. I just took one. I have it open
Okay.
here.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, because I'm seeing a completely different thing, so I can see it clearly, but
Well, of course
yeah.
you are. You're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but at least when I zoom in, you know, I'm expecting you guys can also see the zoomed in version of what I'm looking at, but I guess.
Yes, we can see the zoomed in version, but the display is not
The display, okay.
the full screen.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, Valerio,
Well,
if you want to try sharing your screen, maybe you can see what it looks like. It might be Zoom.
I will right
Did
now.
Zoom change?
Yeah, because when you go to display options, you can do fit to screen or 100%.
There it is. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looks like for me.
Oh,
I
that's
have a
gross.
giant display, but that's what it looks like for me.
I don't like that. That might be a Zoom thing.
I can't.
Mine's not like that at all.
It seems like a change in Zoom because it like
You go
Tom
to
said.
zoom ratio. There's a zoom ratio where you can go fit to window or 100%.
Where's that?
So it's if you go up to where it says Valerio's screen. Oh, well, whoever's sharing now.
Oh, sorry, I unshared. You want me to reshare?
Yeah. Stay with
Sorry
us.
about that.
So if you go up to where it says in orange Valerio screen,
options,
you hit the butt, and then you can do zoom ratio.
Oh, view options. Okay.
Zoom ratio.
Frozen
You can do
face frame.
fit to screen or original size. I don't know if that helps much because if I did 100%.
Mine's already on fit to screen.
Try 100% or original size or maybe.
Oh, that changed it.
Yeah.
But I still have a problem with the gallery. It's way too big. It's taking up half of my screen.
Yeah, I used to be able to like change the view.
You go to view on the top right for that, and you can choose like how to show the gallery.
It used to do it all on its own.
Yeah.
Side by side. Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing.
Standard. Let's see what standard does. Oh, standard fixes it. If you go to view and select standard, all of a sudden everybody's on the right-hand side.
That's how mine is now.
We're now much smaller.
Where's the standard option? I just see the zoom, I see fit to window and then 50, 100, 150.
It's under view, not under the 3.
It's far upper right. Upper right.
Oh, I see. Okay, so standard, yeah.
Right next to the sign in. Yeah.
Sorry, I may have stopped screen sharing. Wait, let me try something again and see if this
Oh,
works.
I was screen sharing. Do you want me to start it up again? Sorry, I had opened up something I was complaining.
Actually, can I try it because I'm the one who shares my screen a lot. So let me see. So I just changed it to, how's this? I just changed it back to standard.
Oh, yeah.
Better? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one more thing you can do, Charlotte.
Yeah. Tell applicants.
No, you're jumping ahead of me. You can download Adobe Reader. And instead of viewing it in OneDrive and which has its own set of issues, if you download it onto your desktop, for example, file that you want to show, and you show it in Adobe Reader, it's going to take up the whole screen.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that way, we're not looking at your browser and all the browser controls and your favorites and all that stuff. We're just looking at the plan.
Yeah, no, I usually share the specific file. Sometimes I share my whole screen depending on what we're doing. Usually with Nearmap, I'll share my whole screen, but let me try one more document. So it has to be specifically Reader and not Acrobat Pro. So can you guys see this whole document with no blackout border?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay,
That's good.
okay. Yeah,
And
because
that-
I'm sharing a specific PDF.
Yeah, okay. So that's the Reader
Okay,
that you're using. It doesn't look like it's using a browser at all.
nope. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So I'll
Yeah,
just
but you're-
tell,
Well, Charlotte, you're using Acrobat Pro. The Reader looks a little bit different.
it does, okay.
Yeah, and of course, if you click on a PDF, yours is going to open automatically in Pro. So that's fine if you want to do that. But
Mhm.
but tonight, I was certainly very frustrated at looking
Yeah.
at anything here because most of my screen was just black.
Yeah.
And
No,
what,
I'll definitely remember to switch the view to standard for Zoom, and then I'll tell, because every engineer just shares their entire screen, so I'll just tell them to share the specific file, and that should hopefully solve our problems. But yeah, something must have changed where this is like, I don't know what happened, so
yeah,
might be a Zoom thing.
I bet it is a Zoom thing where they changed the defaults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they probably did. But it's funny because, I didn't notice it until you guys pointed it out. Okay, good to know.
Good.
I was
Anything
having,
else, all?
Two people were talking. I didn't understand what either one of you said.
I didn't either.
I don't know if I don't know if it's because I'm using a Mac, but I was having no problem at any point during the discussion. My screen was full screen and the Zoom is full screen, and the little list of attendees on the right-hand side when you were sharing a screen was just fine. So it probably was just, they've changed something in the Windows part or something, I don't know.
Yeah, could be. Charlotte, you were going to send me something and you didn't.
I forget what that was.
A link to your Venmo.
Oh, I did send it. I'll send it again.
Okay,
Maybe it didn't go through.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I'll send
good.
it again. But anyway. All right. You guys good?
Thank you all. Great night tonight. Happy we had a nice light agenda again. So
Yeah.
that'll be the goal for my chairmanship, is have a few applicants.
Great.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank
too.
you. Thanks, Charlotte.